Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdverse Odyssey, episode 18.5. We have a nice little bonus episode for everybody because somebody on this call might be an idiot, not pointing fingers. Anyway, it is I, your host, the NVO World Champion of Idiots, Nico. Hello, everybody. And below me, we have the one, the only, a joke I'm going to use from last week, the Puerto Rican Lou Albano, Mr. Rico. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I would take that as a compliment any day. I just need to grow out my stuff and just be on point on that part.
Tell you, dude, all you got to do is grow out that hair.
Hey, I do, but man, after a while, it just gets kind of crazy. But hey, I'm doing fine. Great day, great weekend. Mm-hmm. So I'm eager to get into this episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So before we introduce our guest, we have been trying to talk about our little excursion to the local VCW show. But while I was there, I just so happened to, like everybody else on this podcast, I got him to join by gunpoint. We have one half of the Golden Pinky Society, the one, the only, Mr. Benjamin Banks. How you doing, my man?
Hey, I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me come up here on the Nerdverse Odyssey podcast. You know, it's been a while since I've been a guest on a podcast, so I am very appreciative and I'm very gratefully humbled to, be a guest up here. So thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you, man. Thank you. And hopefully we have more than three listeners who will say the same thing. I'm checking. We're getting more. We are getting more.
That's good. That's good.
Thank you to Russian bots.
Exactly. Yeah, right. I totally didn't hire them at all. So normally how we do this when we do the weekly podcast is we'll kind of go about our weeks. Rico and we can do like a very, very squished, condensed version of it, and then we'll jump right to you. But okay. For me, because we got the regular on Thursday, I did pretty much nothing aside from I went down to the VA hospital and got poked a bunch with needles. So that was fun. That was my day. So Rico, how about you?
Actually, to talk about VA, pretty much was nursing, just a continuing injury, but Friday actually just pretty much kind of binged and watched a couple of movies with my wife since it was my day off from work.
Nice.
I would say quick version. I saw The Judge with Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall. I think it's an excellent movie for anybody to watch, especially if you kind of grew up in a tough upbringing in a way, like where your parents have expectations of you, and the falling out you may have with your parents, and then you going back and reconciling with them. Actually, it was very good. I think he did it after the Avengers. Saw Spider-Man 1 with Andrew Garfield again. Fell in love with it again.
Does it still hold up?
Dude, I'm not going to lie to you. That's my Spider-Man.
Fair.
Like, Tobey Maguire had his thing, and that's when we were, not to give out my age, that's when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Garfield, I felt, was in the middle with the very first one. So you see how he went down the path he suffered a lot. Compared to just Tom Holland, his Spider-Man, at least in my definition. But that's a hill that right now I'm gonna die on until I watch Spider-Man 2, which more likely I'm gonna hate again, only because really Gwen. I think with the death of Gwen Stacy, and that was too long. And Jamie Foxx, they did him a disservice. I really feel he did. He was a goofy scientist. If anybody saw it. But I did love how they had him in the latest Spider-Man on that one. Dude, man.
No Way Home was the perfect version. I don't know how they fucked it up in the original.
Because the original Electro, if I'm not mistaken, he was a mob boss. So I don't know if they just wanted, not a mob boss, he was a mob enforcer. So I don't know if they wanted just to take Jamie Foxx and kind of deter him from it, but then you made him a different version of Jim Carrey's Riddler character, his origin when he played the Riddler Batman.
That was the Clooney Batman, right?
I don't know why they didn't escape me.
Yeah. Well, Rico, I just want to piggyback off of what you're saying about the Andrew Garfield stuff, because it's like I am not the biggest Amazing Spider-Man fan. I remember when the Amazing Spider-Man first came out, and I went to go see it, and I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I was still like, it's not as good as the Tobey Maguire stuff. Now,
Hmm.
I do know that some people say that, it's because you have your nostalgia
Mm.
glasses on and stuff that the Tobey Maguire movies weren't as good. But, even in 2024, I recently watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, and then I watched both the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And the Tobey Maguire movies still hold up to this day, from the storytelling to the pacing to the music. Everything is just really good about those Tobey Maguire movies. And then, even back then, I
Hmm.
wasn't a huge fan of Spider-Man 3, but rewatching it now, it's like I can appreciate it more. Same thing like Avengers Age of Ultron. When I went to
Mm.
go see it when it first came out, I hated it. But
Hmm.
watching it, and I tell everybody this, and if you guys haven't done this, I highly recommend it. You've already seen all of the stuff that led up to Endgame. I
Mm.
highly recommend, and everybody that's watching and listening, go back and watch Age of Ultron after you've been on the journey up until Endgame, because you'll be
Hmm.
able to appreciate it more. And it's like, because
Hmm.
things, they're a lot more clear. And I even remember Josh Whedon, when he did Age of Ultron, there were certain things he had to change because of the studio. They wanted him to do this, he had to remove certain things. So I feel like that's the reason why the movie wasn't that good. But going back to the Amazing Spider-Man, after watching No Way Home and then watching Amazing Spider-Man, I was able to appreciate it even more compared to when I watched it the first time. But Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm still not really a fan of. I thought that the suit was a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
wasn't a fan of Jamie Foxx's Electro. I wasn't a fan of how they did Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin.
Oh
I wasn't
yes.
a fan how they killed Norman Osborn off, but I do feel like if the Amazing Spider-Man universe would have kept going, it probably would have been revealed that Norman Osborn wasn't really dead, that he had something of the Goblin virus. And like, that was a dumb thing too. Like, their
Hmm.
family had some sort of genetic disease that caused them to pretty much die. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I thought that was dumb. We never got to pay off with Norman Osborn. We didn't get the payoff with Harry. Um, and then if you watch deleted scenes, you see that
Hmm.
Peter's dad was still alive, that they wanted to introduce Mary Jane into the
Yeah.
franchise and whatnot. So I'm thankful that Sony and Disney were able to, meet somewhere in the middle and then give us the Tom Holland stuff.
Mm.
But it's like, even with that, I'm still not a huge Tom Holland fan. I mean, not Tom
Hmm.
Holland fan. I'm sorry. Like, I think he's a good actor. I'm not a huge Tom Holland Spider-Man fan. But
Right.
it's like you just said, Rico. It's just like, Tobey Maguire was when you were a kid.
Hmm.
Amazing Spider-Man was the one for you, when you were older.
Hmm.
And that's the same thing with Tom Holland. Like, kids, they love Tom Holland
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man. Like, that's their Spider-Man. But I do feel that, when they get older, I'm sure they're gonna reboot the franchise again. And like, whatever Spider-Man is the current Spider-Man, that's probably gonna be their Spider-Man too.
So I'm gonna be the contrarian cunt on this one, like always. So I loved the Spider-Man movies when they first came out. I always had my one problem with Tobey Maguire was the fact that he looks like a llama. He just
Yeah.
didn't look like Peter Parker to me. Andrew Garfield had the look like as Peter. He had
Hmm.
the like the sarcastic attitude down pat. I did
Yeah.
not like his portrayal as like the Spider-Man in the suit. That was always
Mm,
my biggest
Can
problem with
I
him.
rebuttal that real quick?
Mm.
That's one part I'm going to argue anybody about with, because you look on in the first Spider-Man, he was more as a spider, or acted as a spider, than any other,
Oh,
from Tobey Maguire to Tom
Oh, for
Holland.
sure. I
Ever.
agree with
I'm
you
not talking
there.
about the
I
Like,
agree.
from when he fought the
mannerisms.
lizard to, he said, the traps with the webs,
Mhm.
everything was in there. I mean, and to the point, his journey would have been more foreseeable with the Venom suit, since it was more of a darker tone. Like when he
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when he ripped up the car guy, and he's like, at one point he was just like, oh, he's sarcastic, and then boom, he's in the guy's face. Like, this would
Yeah.
have went a whole lot worse for you if you would have had a star tattoo.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe that's why, because I was never into like Marvel was never the one where I was like I wanted the darker movies. That was always DC for me. So I think that
Yeah.
darker tone might have been what kind of like like almost not ruined it, but just kind of like took me out of it back in the day. I'm probably gonna have to go back and rewatch those then, because I haven't done that in years.
I recommend it.
And that was the thing with Toby. Just my end point would be that's the thing that I didn't enjoy about the Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire is you introduce Venom.
Mm-hmm.
Topher, I forgot his last name,
Grace.
but
Topher Grace.
Like I loved him in the '70s shows. He has other projects that are enjoyable. But far as him being a believable Eddie Brock, at least Eddie Brock, for as the comic book was just this,
He looked like Brock Lesnar. He looked like Brock Lesnar
exactly.
in the comics. Yeah, I mean, I like what's crazy because I just finished X-Men '97 and and I restarted watching X-Men Evolution after I finished it, and I also restarted watching Spider-Man the animated series. And Eddie Brock is supposed to be this big guy, and I'm glad that with Tom Hardy, because Tom Hardy's a big guy, so he fits the mold for Eddie Brock. And Topher Grace, it's just like at the time I was just like, okay, like Eddie Brock is supposed to be this huge guy, but they went with the ultimate Eddie Brock, because the Eddie Brock in the Ultimate comics is a slim guy. He's not very muscular. Him and Peter are actually friends, and some comics and stuff, like the Eddie Brock that you get is different, where he not just the Ultimate ones, but other version where he's slim. He's not this muscular jock that's in the gym all the time. And something I wanted to piggyback off of both of you guys is that Amazing Spider-Man, Garfield, he was a really good Spider-Man. I will give him that, but I was not a fan of him as Peter Parker because he came off as a hipster, and he tried to be the cool guy. But at the same time, you have to look at it for the generations that they're coming out for. With Tobey Maguire, he played a good Peter Parker. He played the nerd that he was supposed to play, and that's how Sam Raimi saw Peter Parker. He saw him as a nerd, and like that's the version that he wanted to make. Whereas with Andrew Garfield, you look at the time period when that movie came out, I think it was 2010, 2011, somewhere around that point. Accurate. And it's like hipster culture was huge at that time point. So it makes sense that like Andrew Garfield was a hipster nerd. But then it's like you look at Tom Holland, and it's like Tom Holland, he is a nerd, but I feel like he is what a nerd looks like in today's world, especially with everybody in that universe, with the characters that they have and whatnot. Because it's like Flash Thompson is supposed to be a bully in Tom Holland's franchise, but he doesn't come off like not a villain, a bully. He's supposed to be a bully, but he doesn't even really come off as a bully for real.
Yeah, he's very like almost anti-antagonistic.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's my discord with it, is that he's portrayed as a loser.
He's almost like the comic relief.
And he's not supposed to be that. He's supposed to be the person that's like, I'm getting all the hot girls.
He's supposed to be Joe Manganiello or whatever his name is.
I'm the jock on the football team. I was just never a fan of like how they changed some of the characters, like with Flash and then with MJ, and instead of having Harry, you had Ned. It's like I was never a fan of those changes, but I accepted them as the movies continued to go on. But like when it comes to how they portrayed the characters, like the supporting cast and whatnot, Tobey Maguire's Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's did it right, with James Franco as Harry, William Dafoe as Norman Osborn, and that's one thing that me and one of my friends always talk about. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there are really no quotes that are quotable from the Tom Holland or the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but the Tobey Maguire ones, it's just like people always say like I'll pay this rent once you fix this goddamn door, or when what am I, like, you can't do this to me, and or I'm somewhat of a scientist.
I'm somewhat of a scientist too,
which is like something like I'll say, like, to you guys, I'm somewhat of a podcast host myself. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like there's so many memorable quotes from the Tobey Maguire franchise that I feel like you don't really have in the other two franchises, unfortunately. And it was awesome when they said those quotes in Spider-Man No Way Home, because it just made it even more better.
That's what I will say. The villains they brought in, like, they did the villains justice in No Way Home.
Yeah.
Like everybody was great, and William Dafoe even like I say he did like he outshined himself in
Yeah.
that because of the way he was acting as a psychopath, but like he also had that I don't want to say like Thanos, but you know how like Thanos made you kind of like feel for him, where you're like, you know what, maybe he is right. Like you get kind of the same thing with his portrayal in No Way Home, where you're like, man, I really feel bad for him. I kind of want to root for him. Then you turn, the heel turn, and he's just a big asshole. I'm like, oh, come on.
Dude,
Yeah.
when he killed Aunt May, I grabbed my pearls. I was like, oh no,
Yes.
Yeah, it was messed up. It definitely was messed up. And it was just awesome having him come back and play that role. And I'll say that is one thing that I love that what Marvel is doing when they bring back these nostalgia actors and put them in these roles so that way that it makes people that grew up watching them feel even more better. Because I don't know if you guys watched the Flash movie, and it's just like that was one movie, I didn't want to go watch it in theaters because I didn't support it because of everything that Ezra Miller was doing at the time. But I wanted to see it because they were bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman. But then it's like, I feel like they really didn't do Batman justice in that movie. Like, yes, Michael Keaton had a couple of good scenes and whatnot. And I will say that I did enjoy the Flash movie at some points. I did think that it was better than Shazam 2. Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods was horrible.
I've heard that.
Horrible.
Here's the question. Was it better than Whedon's Justice League?
What, the Flash movie?
Yeah.
Worse.
Ooh, that's harsh.
I like just Whedon's Justice League more than the Flash movie. But I did think that the Flash movie was better than Black Adam, and I thought it was better than Shazam too. And it's crazy because the first Shazam was really good.
Yeah, I really liked it.
It was bad. Then the same thing, like I watched Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, and I didn't really want to watch that movie because of the stuff with Amber Heard, and I did check it out. I had my ways of checking it out, and it was bad, and I'm just like, DC, when you look at all the stuff that came out in the DCEU, like look at all the movies that came out, I can name the only movies that I really enjoyed were Shazam, the first Wonder Woman movie, Man of Steel. Even though a lot of people don't like it, I enjoy Batman versus Superman. The director's cut, not the original. Yes. I enjoyed the first Aquaman. I think the first Aquaman, the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and Shazam. And then Suicide Squad, not the first one, but the James Gunn Suicide Squad.
The James Gunn one was amazing.
So good. So it's just like there were some good things that did happen in that universe, but I just feel like if they didn't try to compete with Marvel, just like how like people always talk about WWE and AEW and how like sometimes AEW will try to do things that are similar to WWE, and it's just like if they just focus on their own thing instead of like trying to compete with it would all be fine. And I feel like that was the same thing with DC, where it's just like if they would have just focused on their universe, because Man of Steel was phenomenal, and I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do after Man of Steel. And it was just like right after Man of Steel, they announced Batman versus Superman, and I'm just like, well, it's just like we haven't even been introduced to this Batman yet. And this is like, this is what y'all are doing for the second Superman movie.
And it was Ben Affleck as Batman. Like he needed his own movie.
I thought Ben Affleck did a phenomenal job as Bruce Wayne and Batman. He's not my favorite Batman, but I thought he did a really good job. But they should have gave him his own movie. I thought it was so dumb that Zack Snyder tried to put so much into this movie. Like they put Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and like we got Doomsday, and this. I'm just like, bro, like
that's not my Doomsday.
Yeah, like it was just so much. And if you guys haven't watched Superman and Lois, they did a phenomenal job with Doomsday up there, and the last season that they came out with.
Interesting.
And it was
they canceled it. They canceled it.
Well,
was it actually that good?
Well, the reason why, I'll say this: Superman and Lois, it started off really good. The first season was really good. The second season was when I was just like, bro, y'all are doing too much. It's like the
Mm.
stuff, the family stuff, I appreciate. Superman doing some hero saving stuff, showing him like going to different parts of the world and just doing hero stuff. I really enjoyed that stuff. And I enjoyed that Lex Luthor wasn't the main villain on Superman and Lois.
Mm.
And they actually, introduced us to, different stuff. But I just feel like in the second season, like there was too much stuff focused on the other people that lived in Smallville and like his son because you have Jonathan Kent, and then you had I can't remember Jordan. Yeah, Jordan Kent, but the bullies called him JoJo, so I stuck to calling him JoJo too because I like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But
I was gonna say I saw that the pose you posted on Facebook where you're doing like on the turnbuckle. Dude,
yeah,
that looks so
yeah,
good.
that's what I do, man. And it became one of the things where it's just like the writing just went bad. And I want you guys to answer this. So, and before I even say this with the Superman Lois stuff, if you guys were dating a girl
Mm.
and she broke up with you and you found out that she broke up with you because she cheated on you, and she told you that I want to still be friends, but I want you to be friends with the person that I cheated on you with. Like, what would your reaction be?
Mm.
So, uh, so not to incriminate myself, I may or may not have been in a situation like that.
Oh,
After about
wow.
3 years, it was a good old fashioned, yo, pound rocks, bitch.
Wow.
Mm.
What
I
about you?
tried though. I did try.
Nah.
Exactly, right?
Even if I go back to high school or not, if I'm faced with that situation, nah, we can't be friends.
That's what I'm
You're dead. You're
saying.
dead to me. Like
it,
it's
it- it was wild. Like this, like JoJo's girlfriend cheated on him with a girl at summer camp, and mind you, they're teenagers, so like
Mm.
there was nothing like not safe for work that happened. They just kissed, they
Mhm.
made out, but still, it was just so weird that she was just like, well. I want you to be friends with the girl that I kissed. And this girl literally drove 3 hours to come to Smallville to visit her so that way that JoJo could meet her. And I'm just like, bro, like, what type of writing is this? And then they just kept on trying to like shoehorn other stuff. And I'm just like, bro, I don't care about the other people in Smallville. All I care about is Superman, Lois, and what they're trying to do with their family. That's all I care about. And the only reason why the show's getting canceled is because the CW is moving in a new direction and
mm.
they want to get rid of all of the DC shows. Plus, James Gunn wants like he wants everything to be connected now.
Mm.
So all the movies, all the cartoons, TV shows, he wants everything to be in one universe. So
so like Marvel.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, and he came from there, so you think he might know a thing or two.
Oh yeah, I don't blame
Exactly.
him. I don't
Exactly.
blame him.
I'm not gonna lie. This, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, like the stills from the new Superman. I'm digging it. That suit looks really good.
It
Mm.
does.
Like, who would have thought
You,
just a thicker suit would solve most of the problems?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this new Superman. I know that some people are like, oh, like he's throwing in all these people and stuff like that. But it's like I like the direction that Gunn is trying to go in,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like we don't need another Superman origin story. Everybody knows Superman's
Yep.
origin
It's
story.
just like
Like,
Batman. Everybody knows
no,
Batman's
not
origin
even, not
story.
even. I would say Batman, but not even that. Is just like with giving credit to Tom Holland. How many times you got to see Uncle Ben die?
except
Yep.
boy, Uncle Ben not even in this universe. And like
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, it's just wild. But it's like I like that this Superman is already established, and we are seeing some other heroes that are already in this movie make cameos and whatnot, and I'm all for it. It's just like I feel like that's the way to go about it. Unlike with Snyder's Superman, where it's like he was being established
Mm.
and then now you're just shoehorning all these people in here who have been around, but it's like he didn't know about it. Whereas in James Gunn, it's just like, nah, Superman already knows these people. We're bringing them all into this movie. So I'm looking forward to that movie when it comes out, and I'm looking forward to what he is going to do with his universe. It's just that I'm not a fan. I wasn't a fan of him choosing somebody else instead of keeping Henry Cavill on as Superman, because
Yes.
it's like he cherry picked certain people from the Zack Snyder from the Snyderverse and brought into his universe, and it's like now it's going to be new stories but the same characters. But I just feel like some of those people that were in the Snyderverse, it's like they still have gas in the tank.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they barely got off the ground, and it's just like you do this to them. And I think too, I believe one of the actors that was in what was the movie? And Black Adam, I believe the actor is actually from Virginia. I can't remember the character that they played in the movie, but I think they're from Chesapeake, Virginia, or something
Oh.
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think with Zack Snyder, his fault wasn't WB. His fault was himself, because he's let it be known before that, quote unquote, he knows the lore of these characters. Yet his main thing when he went to talk to the WB is, how come Batman cannot kill, or how come
Are
Superman
we gonna have
cannot
this
kill?
conversation again?
yeah.
This all comes
I'm just throwing
back to
it in
him
there
breaking
just
Zod's
for
neck
anybody else
every
who's
single time
listening.
we talk about Zack Snyder. I
Hey,
swear.
I mean, but
because again, hold on. From my point of view, in oh crap, hope I don't lose my thought on this, but giving James Gunn credit on this one is that when he picks his characters, it's a man that knows the lore. I'm not saying he's an expert, but he himself knows what to pick and what works on everything.
yeah,
So him bringing that to the DC verse is basically doing the same thing. You have a property that is in shambles, and
Mm.
unfortunately, there's some diamonds in the rough, and some of it is just charcoal. Like it's not good. So now
yeah,
I gotta pick this. I gotta pick this up. Like it's almost like this is what the company was left in. Now you're hiring me. Now I have to look at this and go, here's all the pieces and how I'm gonna put that together with everything.
yeah.
Unfortunately, Henry Carvel, while I appreciate almost everything he's done, um, I haven't seen a new Argyle movie, even though his hair looks crazy.
I thought the
Um,
same thing, but I do want to check the Argyle movie out though.
but it's one of those things where it's like, what do you want? What do you want him to do? I mean, he already proves his chops with Suicide Squad. I just think with Zack Snyder, once you have somebody coming in there and they start to go against the Lord, not for the benefit of the story. Like I said before, you can follow a recipe. You can change some of the ingredients to change that from a traditional recipe to something else. But
Yeah,
growing up in a way, if my wife would make arroz con gandules, right? That's a Puerto Rican rice, seasoned rice, right?
yeah,
If she would make it if she would change the recipe, not for the enhancement of it, but she wants to substitute it and it tastes terrible, I'll tell her straight up, your worst critics is going to be your own people.
yeah,
And with Zack
yeah,
Snyder, it was the same thing.
Mm.
You claim to be us, and you change a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
And now that everybody was against it, it's the same thing. Director's cut, just like Netflix. He's talking about, oh, wait till my director's cut come out. Why does your director's cut have to be
I
the one
agree with
point?
you.
What does that
Are we
have to
talking
be?
about that Rebel Moon movie or whatever? Is that what?
I'm just saying in general. I don't want to go too much
Okay.
in a rant, but that's my
No,
that's my
but
only thing with WB is that you have the keys and to the house to your own property, unlike Marvel, who try to save ships since they were going bankrupt.
Mm.
yeah,
Not to give Marvel an excuse for some of the properties they have that were garbage, or I'm gonna say garbage, weren't written that well, but WB you had it, and so
yeah.
at least with
I agree with you, Rico. I want to piggyback off of what you're saying about with the James Gunn and Zack Snyder stuff. It's like we all also have to remember that this was like a blessing in disguise for James Gunn for real, because think about it. He was with Disney.
Mm.
Then Disney, they fired him because of old tweets that he had that he
For
had
like early
already apologized
2000s.
for. He had already
Mm-hmm.
apologized for, said I was wrong. I take full accountability for what I said, but and I don't understand like why people like to dig and dig and dig and try to find stuff to try and like come after people. It's like people change over time.
Oh
People
yeah.
grow. It's just like you shouldn't hold something that somebody said and the year like you shouldn't hold somebody accountable for something that they said 20 years ago or
Mhm.
15 years
Mm.
ago. It's like people change and people grow, but Disney fired him, and because Disney fired him, WB they swung in. They saw what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then they brought him in. He did the same thing with Suicide Squad, and like that was him getting his foot in the door. Now him and Peter Safran, they are in charge of DC, and we know Suicide Squad was good. And think about it, everything that James Gunn has done has
Mhm.
been perfect. So
Yep.
all three Guardians of the
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy movies were good. Brightburn, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I
that
can't
was
remember.
his audition.
I think it was called Hero or Superhero, the thing with Rainn Wilson in it, where he was the
Oh,
hero.
Super.
Super
Yep.
good. And then
Slither was another really good one.
Suicide Squad, good. Oh yeah, Slither, yep, that was a good one. And then now he did
Was it Safe
Peacemaker.
for Work porn? The shorts he did on YouTube like a decade ago.
Yeah, and then it's like the stuff with Peacemaker. It was
Oh yeah,
good.
Peacemaker's really good.
So it's just like James Gunn is good at doing what he's doing, and I feel like people just need to wait and see what he's gonna do. I know when Superman comes out, people are gonna love it, and then they just announced that the Supergirl movie is gonna be coming out too. So it's just like I have faith in James Gunn.
Oh yeah, because they cast that one woman. What was her
It
name?
wasn't Sydney Sweeney, was it?
No, it wasn't
No,
Sydney
hell
Sweeney.
no.
It
Oh,
was
I'm sorry. I
somebody
didn't mean to
else.
sound like that. It was. I think it was a girl from I haven't watched it. The House of Dragons.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's one of the, I guess, the children or something in that one.
I know the one you're talking about.
Called House of Dragons. Yeah, I think it's called. Hey, don't kill me. Those who watch whatever that show is. I just know from that.
All I'm hoping for is we get a villain that's not Lex Luthor.
Well, they already said that Lex Luthor was going to be in it. I can't remember the actor's name. Nicholas Holt. That was.
Oh,
And
Holt's gonna play him. Interesting.
yeah. And what's interesting about Nicholas Holt is he was interviewed by Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville, and he told Michael Rosenbaum that you were my Lex Luthor because I watched Smallville. So it's interesting that you have Michael Rosenbaum, who is also really good friends with James Gunn as well. So I mean, like, there's a possibility that we may see him in Gunn's universe as well. Because I mean, think about it. Like, he played Lex Luthor on Smallville, and then he voiced not Barry Allen, but what's
So
the
he
other
did Flash.
Flash? Yeah, what was the other Flash? He wasn't Barry
Wally West.
Wally West. Yeah, he was Wally West on Justice League. So I would be down. I would be down for him to come back and do that. And then I also know that him and Tom Welling, they already announced that there's going to be an animated Smallville series that's coming out. That's going to be a continuation of the series. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hey, that might be in James Gunn's universe. Who knows? Like,
that would be interesting. The problem I have with Smallville, and I realize we're going on a path that'll never get us to wrestling. I'm just saying this right now, guys.
No, I mean, I was going to segue into wrestling after we talked about the nerd stuff.
Yeah, I know, right?
Let's get all the nerd stuff out the way, then we can get into
we'll front load it. Got it. But yeah, like the problem with Smallville was they blew their load too quickly. Like the show lasted longer than it needed to. Exactly. The moment they brought Doomsday into the show, I
already knew that you was gonna say that.
And the shitty part is Doomsday the guy who played him is actually a really good actor. Like I would have loved him as another villain, just not fake Doomsday.
I agree with you on that. What's interesting about Smallville was and it's crazy, but I auditioned for what was it? I think like they were trying to get people for Supernatural, and I was a teenager at this point in time. But I remember like they were doing casting calls at like malls back in the early 2000s, and they like the script was a scene from it was a scene from Smallville, and I remember that I wanted to be so good at, going in for my casting call. I told my mom, I was just like, I don't want to read off of a script. I want to memorize every line that Clark is supposed to say. And the girl that I was dating at the time, she read from the script and did all of Lana's lines so that way she would help me practice. And I remember after doing that thing, I was just like, Mom, I know that I nailed it. I know that I'm going to get this. I never heard from him, but I just remember that like I used to be a huge Smallville fan. I watched it and I stopped watching it. I want to say it was either season 5 or season 6, and it was after Jonathan Kent had died. And I recently started watching Smallville again, like a couple of years ago. And when I was watching it, I had finally got to that episode where Jonathan Kent died, and then I stopped watching it again, which is so crazy that it's like I watched it when it was initially on TV, and I stopped watching it when Jonathan Kent died. Then I tried to rewatch it, and then I stopped watching it when Jonathan Kent died again. And it's crazy because that episode literally came out on my birthday, back when it originally came out, which is even more insane. But it's like you said, Nico, Smallville just went on for way too long. Like, and I feel like that they kept introducing so many people. Like, they had their own Justice League. Like, they were bringing in all of these people that Superman was supposed to meet. Like, after he became Superman, but he was still Clark. And I stopped watching the show when it was on, and I made sure that I had came back when it got to the season finale. I was just like, I mean, not the season, but the series finale. I was just like, yo, is he finally gonna put on the suit? I was excited, and then I watched it, and I was just like, bro, I feel so disappointed for everybody who stuck onto this show and watched it all the way to season 10 to not even see this man in the suit. And then for Tom Welling to say that, well, I didn't want to put on the suit because of this and because of that. And I'm just like, bro, people have been wanting you to put this suit on since you first was announced that you were going to be Clark Kent in Smallville. Like, people have been waiting for this, and like, this is what you give us. The segue into, I don't know if you guys watch Gotham, but did you guys watch Gotham?
I
watched a little bit of it.
Some of it, not all of it, but I know like a lot of the story beats.
So with Gotham, even like, it was like a more of an Elseworld story. I like what they did with Gotham, and I was happy that at the end of Gotham we saw Bruce in the Batman suit, even though it was only like for 5 seconds.
That's all you needed.
Yeah, that's all we needed, because it's like, that's all Gotham was supposed to be. It was supposed to be the story of Bruce Wayne before he became Batman, and I thought that they did a really good job on Gotham. And yeah, I highly recommend it. If nobody's watched it, I highly recommend it.
See, my thing with Smallville, and I agree with you on that point. When I first watched it, it was, at first I didn't want to watch it because it was about Clark Kent. It wasn't about Superman. And then after after my deployment, that was like our go-to series from this one guy who always wanted us to watch Smallville, and so you get appreciative of the show. But something that I told, because I actually met Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling at AwesomeCon. I was in Virginia. But one thing I told Michael Rosenbaum when I watched it the second time, I actually didn't care for Clark Kent's character.
Right?
Lex Luthor was the character that I enjoy more.
Right?
Only because when you see it from his view, Clark Kent, when he would lie, I felt like it was almost like how I am right now, where I'm a father, where it's like, or even how my dad was when we used to, I ain't gonna lie, we used to try to lie to my dad.
Yeah.
And you get this look like, dude, I know you're lying. Like, I seen the crap, whatever. And you just, like, you just did this. Like, no, I didn't. It was like almost like kiddish. So that actually forced me to not like Clark Kent, the character, even more. But then I also had to remember the characters are written to cater to a different audience than we were.
Yes, it was catered to teens. It was a teen drama.
Teens, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll tell you, man, like, when I was doing my rewatch a couple of years ago, I was telling my boy, I was like, bro, Lana is toxic. Lana is very, very toxic. And
I wanted her to die.
The whole thing between her and Clark, like, it was very toxic, man. And I was just like, Clark should have he should have got with Chloe. Like, I don't understand. And then, like, the stuff with Pete, and then, like, they ended up taking him off of the show. And I remember, like, there was one episode where it's like Pete, he finally confessed that, like, Chloe, I've always had feelings for you, but nothing ever came of it. Nothing ever came of it. I'm just like, bro, like, it's like, Chloe, you see that this man is so obsessed with Lana, and we already know that Clark ends up with Lois Lane. So it's just like, why aren't you dating Pete? Like, and then the thing about Chloe was that she was a character she was a non-canon character. She was an OC. It's just like, her and Pete could have got to write off. Yeah, it's just. It was just it, and then she became Lois's cousin. I'm just like, bro, like, come on, man.
I think they try to create the whole Lois Lane again. Instead of Lois Lane and Clark Kent in the Superman series, they try to do it to where it's okay. We're gonna give you Lana Lane, his one original crush, whatever. But the one thing going back to the series, and again, agreeing with you, is that she was toxic. At one point, me and my wife were watching episodes, and I'm like, hey, this is a kid show, right? Like, this is adults, because she's put into some adult situations where I'm like, how you dating this guy? He's your coach.
Yeah, that's like I was about to say that. I was literally about to say that. I'm like, bro.
Is she emancipated? Like, how is she doing all this stuff? Steamy shower scenes and everything. Like, hey.
Bro, her coach was a grown man. And
Yeah.
you want to know something, and like, and going back to the Tobey Maguire stuff, like that's something that like I just like, even as a teenager and a kid, like it just never made sense to me. Like Tobey Maguire, Kristen Dunst, like all those people that were in high school, they did not look like teenagers. They looked
No.
like adults. Same thing with when I was younger, when I was a kid, and when Batman Forever came out, and Chris O'Donnell was supposed to be Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, like, and I remember they said,
He
yeah,
looked like 35 there too.
they said, but in the movie, I think he was either 16 or 17. I'm
Yep.
like, come on, y'all. Come on. Like, that does not look like no teenager.
Like weird.
I'm a teenager.
Yeah.
You don't look like a teenager.
It even that weirdly is like if you go back like something I was telling my wife again about like teachers, like you seeing these teachers now versus how we had teachers that were like in their 50s and 60s. Now you have teachers that are like, not to go dive into that hole, but you got some teachers getting in trouble and they're like 22, and I'm like, man, my teachers never look like that. Like how they get in these situations. But what's crazy, and you guys have time, I haven't watched all the episodes. Michael Rosenbaum does have another show called Talkville, where he has Tom Welling, and they talk about the shows and they give their open and honest opinions of it. Michael Rosenbaum, there's some where he said, I hated this episode. This episode sucked. Like, who did the writing in this episode? This did not make sense at all.
I love it when shots get fired. That's my favorite.
I've watched a couple of those videos. I agree.
And he had the guy who played Pete on there. He had almost all other than Chloe. He had all the other characters. If they can at least come far as in his studio over the Zoom, whatever, he's had him in there to talk questions and everything else like that. But he's telling me like, some of the episodes or even some of the seasons, I think he even said, we probably should have ended at this time. And he's had writers on the show that were all on the show on that one. Just again talking like, who came up with this crazy idea? Like,
you know what's funny? Smallville had the same problem that Supernatural had for me. Supernatural should have ended at season 5 when Sam died.
Yep.
Sam got brought back down to hell. Dean, right?
Yeah, Dean. He had his walk in the sunset.
Yeah, and then he got in bed with that one woman, and just it looked he was just he had like that 1,000-yard stare, and then it was over. I was like, that would have been the perfect ending. And then they just brought a dump truck full of money and said, give us more. Because I remember hearing that was originally supposed to be the last episode. Like, that was supposed to be the end of the show.
Yeah, season 5. Yeah, because it's crazy. I got into Supernatural when season 5 was halfway done when I got into Supernatural. And I remember like Supernatural fans was just like, yeah, season 5 is supposed to be the last one. And then they announced that they were doing season 6. But I can't remember the creator's name. Eric Kripke, who's doing The Boys now. And I remember like he wanted to walk away and focus on other stuff, but like you said,
dump truck of money will do things to you.
Yeah, the dump truck of money came in, and then they kept the series going. And I'll let you know, like, I got burnt out of Supernatural because it was starting to get to that point where I'm just like, bro, like, what am I watching? Like, Dean is a demon now. And
it apparently got really good at the end. Like it ended really well, but I can't do it. Like, I refuse to watch anything past because I'm like, that was supposed to be the canonical ending, and it's a great point where you could headcanon and be like, that was the last episode.
Yeah, some stuff it's like they just jump the shark, man, and it's just like they keep going, and they do that in certain animes too.
Oh yeah,
where it's just like sometimes like like they just jump the shark and all that stuff. But
listen, Dragon Ball Z does not need to be over 400 episodes.
Well, I mean, Dragon Ball Z is not over 400 episodes. It's actually only 200 or so. But
wow, it felt a lot more than me.
Dragon Ball is my number one favorite anime in my top 5, and this is a good segue to go into my podcast because on my podcast we interview voice actors and we interview actors and stuff like that. And just recently, I know we were all at the start of this episode talking about like how our days went and whatnot. And my day, it was really just an average day today, but my weekend was really super busy. Here in Virginia, we just had Tidewater Comic Con's 10-year anniversary, and I
Oh,
went to that con this weekend. And one of the cosplays that I was working on was Alphonse Elric from Full Metal Alchemist,
nice.
and that was my first armor build because I'm a professional wrestler, I'm a cosplayer, and I'm a podcast host myself, and you know working on Alphonse's armor. It took me a good 2 months to do. Like I'd never done an armor build before, and like there were definitely times where I was just like, bro, I am not going to finish this armor before the con comes. And I actually finished the armor the day of the con, which
Nice.
I was really excited about. But on my podcast, going back to Dragon Ball Z, because something that we like to do on my podcast when we interview people is as a thank you for your time for coming on our podcast. We offer to take our guest out to dinner. So on Sunday after the con, there was another con going on here in the area called Anime Fest,
Mm.
and Linda Young, who voices Frieza on Dragon Ball Z, and she voiced Genkai on Yu Yu Hakusho, she was coming to the con, and I had told her, I was just like, hey, you're going to be in my area and whatnot, when you come here, let's go out for dinner. And that was my Sunday. Like I had dinner with
Nice.
Frieza, and it's crazy because I was telling one of my friends, it's like if you would have told Little Banks that like he would be going out to dinner with Frieza's voice actor, like his mind would explode. He probably would be mad that like he was actually going out to dinner with Frieza's voice actor. But that's one of the cool things that I love about like when we were doing our podcast frequently was just interviewing like voice actors, like people that were coming into the voice acting game, and people who that we grew up watching, like with Dragon Ball Z. I can say, well, we interviewed Frieza's voice actor. We interviewed both Gohans. We
Oh,
interviewed Stephanie Nadoni, who voiced she voiced Kid Goku in the original Dragon Ball, and she voiced Gohan in Dragon Ball Z. But then we also interviewed Kyle Bear, who voiced adult Gohan in Dragon Ball Z, and he's still currently voicing Gohan till this day in Dragon Ball Super and whatnot. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. And yeah, that's if you guys want to ask me any questions about the podcast journey or the cosplay, let me rewind, the cosplay adventures, I'm all for it right
all
now.
right. I would like you to do a shameless plug. What is the name of your podcast?
So the podcast is called Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. I'm the host, Benjamin Banks, and then my co-host, Rebellious D and Terrific Trav. Two of my best friends. We have over, and I correct. Don't be mad at me, guys, if I don't remember this, but yeah, I believe we have over 200 episodes. So it's been a while since we
Oh wow.
recorded, but we have over 200 episodes, and yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's just like with anything in life, you get busy. Me and Rebellious D, we got serious into cosplay and making cosplays and stuff like that. And Terrific Trav, he's doing stuff with his church, and being a volleyball coach and stuff like that. So it's just everybody's just busy
Mm.
with life now. But hopefully we'll come back with the podcast in the future, and we'll start doing our thing again. But like we've just interviewed so many incredible people, from people that have done horror movies to people that do voice acting, comic book artists and stuff like that. It's I've been very blessed to have the opportunity to talk to so many amazing people and become friends with some of the people and stuff like that. And like meet up with them whenever they come to town, or if I go to their cities, and we link up and have a good time, man. It's just so many people. And I know we were talking about Gotham and stuff, but one of my good friends, Renes Rivera, like he was somebody who I had interviewed like several years ago, and he was on the final season of Gotham, but it was a minor role. But he was on, and I'm going to segue into something else after this, but he was on a show called The Gifted, which was also on Fox, which was uh X-Men TV show, but the X-Men weren't up there. It was in the universe of the X-Men, but He was on that show, and then later Reness went on to star and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where he was one of the flag smashers in that. So,
Oh wow.
Which one?
Reness he
Remind me.
I can't remember his character's name, but he was the big guy, big Latino guy on the Flag Smashers, and he was the one that he was in the final episode, and the girl, I can't remember her name, but she poisoned him or something like that
Mhm.
when he was in the car. But yeah, Renes's a really cool guy, and everybody that's listening and watching, like, go look him up because, like, and then he's singing now, he's rapping,
Oh
so
nice.
yeah, really cool guy. But when I was saying like I wanted to segue into something else, going back to my podcast and keeping it on X-Men, we interviewed a voice actor whose name is Isaac Robertson, who when we interviewed him, he was really just getting his footing in the door when it came to voice acting. And like after we interviewed him, like, he ended up doing work on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is, in my top 5 anime.
Who do you
He was
play?
he played Donatello in Stone Ocean.
Oh okay.
But, then, later on, X-Men 97 came out. And I remember when the trailer dropped and like like you heard all these people talking and whatnot. And then he made a post and he was just like, hey, I'm voicing Bishop in X-Men 97. And I was just like, bro, like it's just so wild. Like you never know, who you interview
Mm.
and then what they're gonna do down the road. So and again, I'm very blessed to like have the opportunity to, talk to these people, and I'm just happy to see like where they've gone on their journeys in acting and voice acting.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Uh,
So,
yeah, we have
uh,
Glenn.
Lindsay,
Sorry,
where's
I
he
gotta
at?
throw shot. So one of our other co-hosts, Glenn, he was originally a guest, and he just kind of like stayed on. Like we have a running joke. By the time we hit episode 500, it's gonna be like 13 people in the show. But I brought him on because he's working on a book. He's working on a couple source books for the World of Darkness, which is a tabletop RPG. And then
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh yeah, no, totally working on it." So we only have like a couple pages and no release date or anything. I was like, "Oh, you bitch."
Um, Speaking about the interviews, I'm just curious on that one. I mean, are you when you're setting these? Were you? I guess my question would be is since you mentioned you have like 200 episodes with your current podcast, were you already established when you were reaching out to these folks, and was it more of you're going through their publicists, or is more of like a kind of like a DM in Twitter and
I
just
was
saying,
sliding in
hey,
the DMs. I was sliding in the DMs. That's how we were getting people,
You must be
man.
good at that because I could never slide into anybody's DMs. Hitomi
It's
Tanaka
all
just won't get back to me.
it's all about being confident. That's what it all comes down
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, it's the same thing like when I go to conventions and I interview people like voice actors at conventions and whatnot. It's all about your approach. It's like
mhm,
I remember at it was GalaxyCon. And at GalaxyCon, I had interviewed Ian Sinclair, who voices Brooke on One Piece and Whis and Dragon Ball Super. I interviewed Justin Brenner, who voices Deku on My Hero Academia. And then I interviewed Josh Keaton, who voiced the Spectacular Spider-Man. And then he also voiced Hercules. He voiced a character on the new Voltron or whatnot. But he was also in the Across the Spider-Verse movie, and all I did, I just approached him. You confident in what you say. With Ian Sinclair, I had met him before, and a lot of times I asked him to, like, originally when we were doing our podcast, because Trav, he would always say, you should just go up to him, ask them to come on our podcast, and then, we'll go from there. But, I was just like, some of these people are busy. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
have time. They don't have time to do podcasts and stuff like that. So, I just started taking it upon myself that when I go to cons, like, I'll ask them like, "Hey, can I interview you? My name is Benjamin Banks. I interviewed this person, and like, I always name drop. I
mhm.
name, like, I interviewed this person on my podcast. I interviewed that person, and once they hear what I'm saying, like, they'll say yes. And I'll say this. This right here just goes to show you, like, like how as long as you stay humble and respectful, you never know what doors or opportunities
Mm.
are going to open for you. So
Right.
this year, I interviewed Zeno Robinson and Justin Brenner, who are people that I've always wanted to interview on my podcast. And I just happened to, at the start of the year, I went to Ichiban Con in North Carolina, and Zeno Robinson was there. And I had went up to him. I had told him like I had always wanted to interview him. I had reached out to him before online, and his person never got back to me to set up an interview or anything. And I was just like, I wanted to know if I could interview you here at the con. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So he said yes, but the handler was just like, "Whoa, you can't
Yep.
interview him. You can't interview him. Like you need to have a press pass. But if you could go get a press pass from the front, I'll let you interview him." So I go up to the front. I tell him like, "Hey, I'm trying to interview Zeno Robinson." They already said I could do it. The people at the front was just like, okay, well, you have to go online, you have to fill out all this stuff, you have to submit like the questions that you're gonna ask him
Oh
and stuff
wow.
like that. And I had told them, I was just like, look, I've been interviewing people on my podcast for 5 years. I said, I don't have a set list of questions that I'm going to ask people. Like everything that I ask people is all up here. Like I am good at improv. I'm good at ad libbing stuff. So I was just like, I don't have a set questions to ask. And I told them, like, I have been a guest at several cons in Virginia. I've been a guest at this con. And as soon as I had mentioned that I was a guest at this con, like the lady, she was just like, "Oh, well, if you've been a guest at this con, then all right, we'll go ahead and give you a press pass. Like, we'll just go
Mhm.
in and sit you in there." So I go back inside and I interview Zeno, and like the guy that was one of the like the media people, he told me, he was just like, I came back in there, and then like Zeno's handlers were like, okay, well, what are the questions that he's gonna ask him? And he was just like, he's just gonna ask him, he's freehanding it. Like he just has questions that he's gonna ask him. And like they was
Mhm.
just like, no, like that's not how this works. Like
Yeah.
we have to have the preset questions and whatnot. And like he told me, he said he was looking over. He said you had Zeno smiling. It's just like you was asking him, questions that he had, never been asked before and stuff like that. Like there was never a moment where he looked confused or he looked uncomfortable. And I'm sitting here being chewed out by these people, and
Mhm.
it's just like then I look to my left. You're done interviewing Zeno. Now you're interviewing Rico Fajardo, and I'm just like, man, this guy moves fast. And then
Mhm.
I interview Zeno and Rico Fajardo, and Rico Fajardo, he's also a popular voice actor from My Hero Academia, and he's also done work on other popular animes too. And he was just like, Benjamin, like you are really good at doing what you do, and I sent him both the interviews, and he was just like both of those interviews were really good. Like it's just like you had both of them engaged the entire time. And for somebody that just comes up with questions off of the top of his head, like you did an amazing job with that. And I told him, I said, I've been doing interviews for 5 years. Like we all start somewhere. There was a point in time when we started leveling up with Benjamin Banks podcast, and we would be recording in Trav's room. And I remember there would be times where it's just like me and Trav, we didn't know what we were doing. Like I would ask a question, and then I would look at Trav like, "Well, what's next?" And it's all about leveling up.
Mm.
Right.
And you gain that experience, and you get comfortable and doing what you do. Because I mean, like even when we were reaching out to people back when we first started, like there were some voice actors like what is his name? He voiced Killer B on Naruto. I met Kotaro Colbert. When I started watching Shippuden during the pandemic, well, before the pandemic, I want to say it was like 2018 or 2019. I had got to the episode where Killer B was introduced, and I was just like, bro, like, this is awesome. Like, I love this character. And
Mhm.
I saw who the voice actor was. I slid in his DMs. He wasn't that busy, and he was just like, yeah, I'll come on your podcast. And, the rest is history. So, to anybody that's listening and watching this, just always be confident in yourself, and always make sure that you sound believable, because it's like when you're stuttering over your words, and like you're like like people, like they know that it's just like, okay, I don't want to do this interview, like I don't know who this person
Mhm.
is, but if you sound confident and you sound like you know what you're talking about, and you walk the walk, you talk the talk, they'll bring you on or they'll let you interview them.
Fair. That's kind of why Rico and I are a tag team. See, he's the one. He'll have the list. He's gonna go into details and get like you know, the questions that need to be asked. Whereas
Yeah.
you come to me and I'm like, so why male models?
Nah, I mean, I guess for me, when it comes to interviewing people, it's like even for you having you on the podcast, it was one of the things where I want to do as much history on the person we're interviewing, so that way in a way, it doesn't seem like we're wasting time.
Yeah, that's fair.
We're wasting your time for like, man, these guys didn't do that much research on me. Now, of course, if we're introducing we're interviewing some movie star, obviously there's some people where it's like, dude, you got too much history
Yeah,
Mhm.
for
for
sure.
me to dive into.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like in a way, like the Hot Ones. I don't know if you guys ever seen that show. Like
Yeah.
the
Oh
guy who
yeah.
hosts it says is like sometimes I may have an hour or two when they tell me, guess what? Such and such celebrity just said yes, they're coming here and they're coming here in 2 hours, and he's like, what the
Yeah,
heck?
you gotta get ready. Yeah, for
So with some
real.
of it, he's like, I had to learn how to do it on my own, try to find certain things, and then eventually once you got the team, then you go from there. But I mean, for me, it's more of even when I talked to I was on a panel for John Leguizamo. Like I actually met him, got a picture signed and everything. Anything I said to him was coming from the heart. It wasn't scripted, but at the same time was trying to pick his brain because the man at least growing up, he's been a staple in our household. Like again, it was one of the running jokes we used to have where our parents, you ask them who's if somebody was a Hispanic actor, like, oh yeah, they're Puerto Rican. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, everybody's Puerto Rican. Like, hey, hold on, what are you talking about? Like Michael Jackson's Puerto Rican. And that was like an inside joke on A Living Color. I don't know if you guys ever saw an episode
Of course.
where David Allen Greer was like, they come into a cafe. He's like, Michael Jackson's Puerto Rican, and I'm like, as a kid, like, oh crap, my mom was right. Like, yo, Michael Jackson's Puerto Rican. Hell, I thought Chico DeBarge was Puerto Rican. I was like, hey, we got somebody in there.
In
But
all fairness, what was it?
feel that.
Episode 5, I was Puerto Rican because Hunter and I grew up watching The Pest.
oh yeah,
I
'cause
remember that movie. I remember
Such
that.
a good movie. It's on YouTube for free if you have the YouTube Premium, by the way.
Mm.
it
I highly
was just one
recommend
of those
going and
things-
watching it. It's great fun.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things again with interviews is at least from my point, I want to show appreciation by looking into what you've been doing, what you've been
Yeah.
accomplished, recognize it, and then also give you time, like right now, give you time to explain yourself. On
Yeah,
that
no,
part.
I appreciate that, man. And it's one of those things, man, where like you was just saying with John Leguizamo and or like the host from Hot Ones, where it's just like, yo, they're coming here in 2 hours, and sometimes even within that 2 hours, it's like they only have 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So it's like you
Mhm.
have to make sure that you hit all your bullet points when you're interviewing somebody. So, for example, when I interviewed Justin Brenner, it's just like the bullet points that I had. I asked him 3 questions. It was, like, what can you, because My Hero Academia season 7 just came out, and
Mm.
I was just like, you've been voicing Deku, like, what is something that you can, tell people to hype them up for My Hero Academia season 7? Because it's like you're pretty much plugging the new season that's coming out, and
Mm.
then plus with Justin, there really aren't that many interviews of him out there on the internet because he's just so busy. So I asked him that. I asked him like, were there any traits that he picked up from Deku from voicing him over the years and whatnot? And then I had asked him, what are anime that you would like to recommend to everybody that's watching that you worked on that people may not know of? And he recommended 2 animes, and that was that. Like, sometimes it's like you have to have your bullet points and you have to hit every mark. Because like with Ian Sinclair, for example, when I interviewed him, I told him, I said, all I need is a minute. That's all that I need. And he gave me a minute and 30 seconds. And all the conversation was about was One Piece and the live action One Piece.
Mm.
You don't want to, you can't ask like, well, what was it like to do this? What was it like to do this? What was it like to do that? That's something that you save more for a podcast.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
these people are at conventions, they're trying to make money. I
Mhm.
already saw that he was starting to have a line like form at his table. So if he
Mhm.
could just give me a minute and 30 seconds, that's all I needed. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it's like you have to know, everybody that's watching and listening, you have to know when to wrap it up.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
have to know. You have, again, know your bullet points, know when to wrap it up. Like pick up on social cues. Like when they're making eye contact with people, you got to know that
Mhm.
stuff so that way that you're not keeping them away from doing what they have to do. And even when it comes to bringing people on the podcast, like we've interviewed people before. like Richard Epcar, for example, somebody he's voiced over I want to say 2,000 characters from anime to video
Mm.
games to movies. Like some of the things I can name that he's done work in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He voices Raiden and the new Mortal Kombat games. He voiced the Joker in the Injustice games. I believe he voices Akuma in the Street Fighter games. I may be
Okay.
wrong, but like he told us, he was like, "Hey guys, I only have 30 minutes." You know what I'm saying? And then he gave us an extra 10 minutes because he enjoyed the interview. So it's just like you just have to respect people's times and
Mm.
whatnot. So
Mhm.
All right. So anything else from your week? Usually how we do this, kind of like what you did. You'll start with like the week and then we just go on to an infinite tangent. It's great. But like any video games, or like anime books, stuff like that. Anything you've been into lately?
definitely My Hero Academia. They're at the end game right now with the what chapter 423 came out on Sunday. The series is about to wrap up.
Yeah, didn't wasn't it something about like 426 is going to be the ending, or it was? I know it's supposed to be coming real soon.
I don't know what it is. I told my friend that I feel that because it started in July of 2014, and I feel like that the creator is gonna try to stretch it out into July of 2024, so that
Okay.
way it could be 10 years. But
Mm-hmm.
My Hero is something that I've been reading. X-Men 97, like I had said earlier in the episode, I just finished watching that. I haven't really been gaming for real because again, I was working on my Alphonse
Mm-hmm.
armor, so a
Mhm.
lot of my time and energy was really going into that. So yeah, and now with this week coming up, I'm supposed to be working on my Deku cosplay for Animazement that's going to be in North Carolina. That's coming up this Memorial Day weekend, and I'm supposed to be teaming up with one of my friends. She's going to be cosplaying as Uraraka, and I'll shout her out.
Nice.
It's Paige at Cosplay on Instagram. Go check her out. She's a wonderful person and huge My Hero Academia fan. So I can't wait to do that cosplay team up with her. Um, and then other than that, I really haven't been doing anything other than cosplaying, hitting the gym, and wrestling. Just
All
like where
right.
I had met you at, Nico.
Yep.
Like that's all I've been
So I'm not
doing.
gonna lie, I don't know if I exuded any confidence when I came over to ask you on the podcast, but I remember going over to Rico and being like, "Yo, I don't know if I'm doing this, but I think I'm gonna get this guy on the podcast."
Yeah, I'm always down. Like it's crazy because, and I was telling my friend this before we started recording. I was just like early in my wrestling career, like I used to do a lot of podcast interviews and whatnot, but when I started my own podcast, it's like I wasn't really being interviewed like that for real because I was the one
Mm-hmm.
doing the interviews. But if somebody ever wants to ask me to come on, like I'm always down to come on somebody's podcast. And if you want to segue into wrestling right now, like I'm all for it.
All right, let's do it. So that running splash you did with Big AC, that
Uh-huh.
was, oh man,
Mm.
that was like watching just two freight trains of meat colliding in midair. Like I gotta admit, that was some of the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, man, big AC. Hey, he's a big guy,
Yeah.
and me and him, we've crossed paths a lot at VCW. It's crazy, but AC, he reminds me of myself when I was younger, and I'm only 35 years old, but I've been wrestling for I want to say what 10 years now,
Oh
10,
wow.
11 years, but. Yeah, Big AC, he reminds me of me when I was younger, and I see, I respect him, and I see a lot of good things coming his way in his wrestling journey. But I do hate his guts though. Yeah, even though I respect him, I hate his guts, and
That's
he's a
what I like to
big
hear.
man. He's a big man, and like they say, what Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. When the irresistible force meets the movable object.
Mhm.
Big AC, he's a big guy, but I've lifted his big ass up and I took him down before. So
Mm.
um we got a match coming up. The Liberty Lottery is coming up at the end of July, July 26th at the Masonic Temple here in Norfolk, Virginia. and it's gonna be the Golden Pinky Society and former WWE superstar Paul London. You know,
Oh.
him and Diamond Victor Griff, my tag partner, they have a lot of history together, and you know, it's gonna be a good fight. You know, we're gonna be going against you know, Big AC and you know, Desmond and you know, his crew and whatnot, and it's like, you know, Desmond, he used to be one of our friends and he turned on us. So
Now, is Desmond the one that that turned on you guys
Captain
during the
Brunch,
battle royale?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Captain
Battle
Yep.
Brunch.
Royal.
That's
Yeah.
what I call him, Captain Brunch, and he looks like the Quaker Oats man. You know, it's just you know, it's
I don't know. He kind of reminded me of Jay Butler if he was drinking the same Barry Bonds juice or something. I don't know. Just
All right, so you've been in
so
the game for 10 years. So what got you into wrestling?
and also, before I answer
Oh,
that,
sorry.
Cassius Carter. That's the other person that we're going to be facing against. I
Okay.
want, even though I don't like him, I want to put some respect on his name too, because you know, I'm a very respectful person. But what got me into wrestling was I always wanted to be a wrestler. You know, growing up when I was a little Banks, you know, Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk
mm,
Hogan, you know, seeing them on TV. I took a break from watching wrestling at this time period, and uh I had got back into watching wrestling in the late 90s. I remember my cousin, when I had went over to their house and they were watching wrestling, and I had saw The Rock on TV, and you know, like the way that he talked on the mic and the way that he was whooping ass in the ring, it's like, you know, he's what brought me back into watching wrestling. And I just became like a super fan, like just watching it and whatnot. And I remember when I was in high school, you know, most people, they say, "Oh, I want to be a lawyer or I want to be a doctor." I was like, I want to be a professional wrestler. You know, I know all this stuff about WWE. I know all this stuff about WCW, ECW. I was kind of just getting into TNA at the time, and I was just like, "Yo, I want to be a wrestler." And I didn't start my wrestling journey until it was 2011. Was it 2011 or 2012 or 2013? I can't remember. It was one of those. Yeah, it was 2013. It was 2013. So there was a school in Virginia Beach called Southside Pro Wrestling, and I started going there. I started training, and after that, the rest was history. And it's crazy because, you know, at VCW, we're going to be teaming up with Paul London, but I remember my first VCW show. The main event was Diamond Victor Griff versus Paul London,
Oh,
and
wow.
I was sitting in the audience. And if you would have told me back then that me and Diamond Victor Griff would become the Golden Pinky Society, you know, one of the most loved tag teams, you know, in Virginia Championship Wrestling, I'll probably say in Virginia Championship Wrestling history, like everybody loves us, man. Like, you know, the support that we get from all the VCW fans, you know, like we really appreciate, and we love that, you know, from the time that I was injured to the time Griff was injured, like the people, like they love us. I remember at the last VCW show, one of the fans, it was an older gentleman, he had came up to me and he was just like, when are you guys going to win the VCW tag team titles back? He said, I need you guys to win those tag titles
Dude, the
back. And I was,
delinquents
and
did you guys dirty. I just saw
they
that match. They
did.
did you dirty.
They did us dirty, man. And I remember, you know, I told him, I said, you know, we're gonna win them back. I said, you know, thank you for, you know, supporting us. You know, thank you for always putting your pinky up every time we come out to the ring, because me and Griff, we feed off of that. We feed off of the love and energy that you guys give us, that positive energy every time we come out to the ring. And I told him, I was just like, you know, we're gonna win these belts back. And I went to go pinky him, and he had gave me a pinky promise, and I was like, whoa. I was like, well, what are you promising me? And he said, I'm promising you that you guys are going to win the belts back. And I was like, whoa. I was just like, okay. And I was just like, well, what are you going to do if we win the belts back? And he said, I'm going to do backflips out here in the crowd. And I was just like, okay. I said, I want to see you those backflips. Yeah, I said when we win those belts back, I'll tell security to let you in the ring so that way that you can do backflips here in the ring. And that's just one of the things that I love about the fans that come to the VCW shows, man. It's they're very supportive, they're very caring. You know, when people come up to our tables, just like when you had came over to our table, Nico, it's just like, we love talking to people. People, it's just like they come to us, they see that we're real. They see that, there's no BS. And I remember what I wanted to say when Rico, when you were talking about John Leguizamo, um, there's a voice actor, Joshua Seth, who he voiced Tai on Digimon, and he voiced Tetsuo in the Kira movie. And we had interviewed him on our podcast, and he was a guest at Hampton Comic Con. And the con, they had asked me to do the panel with him, which is something that I do at cons as well. Like, I'm sometimes I'm a panel host with wrestlers and with voice actors. I did a panel with Jungle Boy when him and Luchasaurus were still a tag team, and I did a panel with Demolition at Tidewater Comic Con last year. But with Joshua Seth, there were people that had came into the room. He was answering questions and whatnot, and there were two times where like nobody had any questions to ask him, and instead of like just sitting there and just letting crickets go, like I asked him a question, and then after I asked him the question, I started asking him questions again. It got quiet again. I asked him another question, and after the panel was over, he was just like, Benjamin, I just want to say thank you so much for keeping the flow of things going, because I have done panels where nobody has any questions and we're all just sitting there. You know what I'm saying? And he said you were able to make sure that things kept moving. And that was another one of the reasons why they let me interview Zeno at Ichiban, was because when I told them the same thing I just told y'all about Joshua Seth, they was just like, if you were able to do that, then that means that you know what you're doing. So it's just I got the gift of gab, just like I'm talking to you guys right now. I can talk for hours. I used to get in trouble when I was at elementary school just for talking and running my mouth all day. So yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I might not seem very talkative at times, but yeah, I used to get in a shitload of trouble for that back as a kid. Um, so, aside from wrestling, let's kind of veer over into some other territories. You got into cosplay. Now, what brought that about?
So cosplay is something that I always wanted to do. I'm a big guy, but I used to be a bigger guy. I used to almost weigh close to 500 pounds.
Ooh.
And I remember I had a tag team match at VCW. It was me and Billy Gunn, who is now in AEW now with the Acclaimed, and it was me and him against Brandon Scott and Kevin Dorn. And during the match, the second rope had snapped, and when it snapped, like I was getting thrown out of the ring, and I remember I was thinking to myself, I was just like, well, did the rope snap because of my weight, or like what did it snap because of something else? And I was told that it had snapped earlier in the night. So it did take less, pressure off of me thinking that like it snapped because of my weight. But that was one of the reasons why I wanted to lose weight. And then another reason was because I was over my friend's house and we were drinking beers, and like they had took some photos of me because we were all wearing luchador masks. And when I had saw myself in the photo, I was just like, bro, I said, it's time to make a change. And I started going to the gym. And as everybody knows, like when you first start working out,
I'll be right back, guys.
okay.
Okay.
As everybody knows, when you start working out, it's one of those things where it's just like you don't want to go to the gym by yourself. You want to go with somebody so that way that you feel comfortable, and that way that you can work out together. And that's how it was when I first started going to the gym. Like I was going with Griff and one of my other friends, professional wrestler Mad Max Morrison. And there would be times where if they didn't go to the gym, I wasn't going to go to the gym. So I started watching anime again, and it was My Hero Academia, and it was just so relatable because of Deku's journey from wanting to be a hero, and my journey on wanting to become a professional wrestler. So I use My Hero Academia to motivate me during my fitness journey,
Mhm.
and my goal was to lose enough weight so that way that I could cosplay as Deku one day. That was my goal. And I've reached my goal. Like it was at NecoCon 2021. I cosplayed as Deku. I cosplayed as Izuku Midoriya, and it felt so good to actually wear that suit,
Mhm.
and it felt good to know that I busted my ass so that way that I could become Deku and
Mhm.
cosplay and whatnot. And the fitness journey, it also helped me, it helped me out better in wrestling, being able to move around the ring better and whatnot. Because going from 456 pounds to, dropping down to being in the 260s, 270s, and like
Oh man.
people seeing my improvement and whatnot. Like it's always a feel good moment when somebody that hasn't been to VCW in a long time and they see me and they're just like, "That's Benjamin Banks." Like I remember when he was huge, and it's just like now he's so small, and it's just a really feel good thing to hear.
No, that's I mean, for as the weight journey, I know on that part for me, it goes up and down. But I know at least people are accepting that versus they're going like, "Hey, that's Benjamin Banks. He lost a lot of weight. Man, is something wrong with him?" Like,
Yeah,
it's almost like I guess nowadays it can kind of be kind of a joke, but we've seen with like Chadwick Boseman. I think at one
yeah,
point 50 Cent when he lost all that weight for that one role that I guess he didn't get, it was the same thing of there's something sick, but that's something to anybody listening needs to applaud this man on that part. Going
yeah.
from that much weight going down is awesome. My question for the cosplay is when you put the cosplay in, do you feel in a way you don't feel like yourself? Like you're not Benjamin Banks. In that moment, you're that character, or you feel like since nobody sees your face, it's almost like you're another person, another character
Oh, for
um
sure,
that
for
you could be.
sure. Yeah, when I cosplay these characters, I become those characters. If the character is a good guy, then like because I interview people at cons, one of the cool things I love doing is interviewing other cosplayers and characters. So
Mhm,
let's say, for example, if I'm Deku, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be, asking,
mhm,
questions that like, that a good guy would ask whoever I'm interviewing. So if I'm a good guy and I'm interviewing a bad guy, then of course like the questions I'm going to ask them is like, how dare you, do this, and what was
mhm,
your thought process on that compared to if I'm cosplaying as a villain, I'm going to be
mhm,
a dick to the people that I'm interviewing. So I was a villain. I was Arlong at GalaxyCon, and then I had interviewed a Frieza cosplayer. So of course, like I was just like, Frieza, you tell it just like it is. We both
mhm,
hate humans. It's just like, you're having issues with this person. I'm having issues with this person.
mhm,
What do we got to do here? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm addicted to these people, especially if
mhm.
they're good guys, but bad guys, it's just like we're buddy buddy pal pal. So yeah, I love acting. I like, like that's, and not all cosplayers have to do it. Some people just put
Yeah.
on the costume because it's kind of like Halloween. You're just going to the con, you're dressing up as your favorite character, and you're having a fun time. But I
Mhm.
feel like everybody, they find their own way of having fun when they go to conventions and when
Yeah.
they cosplay certain characters.
And that's one thing with the cons. Nico actually introduced me to the cons. I've never been to one. It was
Mhm.
Baltimore Comic Con. We went to the first time, um, which I kind of fell in love with Comic Cons. And as we go, I try to get a middle ground between taking pictures, talking to folks, and stuff like that. Um, have you ever had anybody, in a way, question your memory for as lore? Like you did something and somebody was like, "Hey."
Yes, yes. That's why I just let out that laugh.
The good
When
old, are
I
you really into what you think you're into?
and
Like,
and
do you
and,
check them?
well, see, I'll say this. I'll say this because I tell my friends that if they're gonna cosplay a certain character, to at least be knowledgeable on the character that you're cosplaying.
Right.
I don't recommend somebody cosplay like if me, you, and Nico were going to a con and I was just like, hey guys, I'm gonna cosplay as Rengoku from Demon Slayer. I want you guys to cosplay as Tanjiro and Zenitsu. Now, if you guys have never watched Demon Slayer and it's like y'all are cosplaying as these people, like
Mm-hmm.
y'all know nothing about these characters, and
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have people that may come up to you and be like, "Oh, so do you remember in this episode when
Mm-hmm.
this happened?" And then it's just like, "Oh, well, I don't know." So at at NekoCon, I cosplayed as Kisame. It was my first time doing the character. I made the sword myself, and I remember somebody had came up to me and they were like, "Oh, so like you did you make Samahada yourself?" And I was just like, "Samahada," and he was just like, "Well, how are you cosplaying Kisame? And you don't even know the name of your sword." And I was just like, I said, "Bro, like I like Naruto. I only remember like a little bit of what I watched and whatnot. I'm just cosplaying the character. It's not that big of a deal." And then he just walked off. Sometimes, you have people that try to question you and try to check you, and it's just like you just have to check them and you have
Mm-hmm.
to put them in their place so that way that they'll STF you and just kick rocks. Also at that con, it was my first time ever making like a prop, and I made Samahada. See, now I know the name because after
Mm-hmm.
that I was just like, I want to make sure that I know certain stuff with, weapons and attacks. Like when I cosplay as Rengoku, I know the names of all of his attacks and all of the quotes that he says. So that way if somebody tries to ask me a question or if somebody wants me to do a pose, I can do the pose that the character does. And especially like little kids, they love when I cosplay as Rengoku. But at NekoCon when I was cosplaying as Kisame, first time making a prop, and the sword handle, it was bent to the side because it broke in the car because I made the sword too big. When you make props, when you make your own cosplays, it's always a learning experience, and you get better from the first time you did it, right? So this guy, I was walking inside and he was just like, "Hey, you were cosplaying as Kisame the other day," and he was like, "Don't act like I didn't see that. Your sword handle was broken and stuff like that." And I told him, I was just like, "Bro, it was my first time making a prop. It broke in the car. At least I made something.
Mm-hmm.
You're wearing an Akatsuki robe. Nobody knows who you even are." And he STF you. He shut up and he walked off. And I'm just like if you're gonna come at me, and that's the thing that when it comes to cosplay, like some of these people don't know I'm a professional wrestler, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, when I started in the business, I was a bad guy. So I'm good at talking shit. Like everybody, they know, good guy Benjamin Banks, and Banks is positive and for the people and whatnot. But man, like I used to when I was a bad guy, I used to tear into people. I remember it was Valentine's Day one day, and I was at a promotion in North Carolina called Next Evolution Wrestling, and my manager Jizak A-Track, he came out to the ring with me, and he was walking around and he was handing out hotel room key cards, and he was handing them out to all the pretty women in the crowd. And I got on the microphone and I was just like, "Hey ladies," I said, "Right now my manager Jizak A-Track, he's handing to you the room key to come and have a really good time with Benjamin Banks after I beat whatever chump comes out through that curtain tonight, because I'm pretty sure some of you ladies haven't been with a real man in a very long time. And
Mm-hmm.
after you have one time with Benjamin Banks, it'll be the best time that you'll ever have in your life." And all the people were booing me, the men that were with their girls and stuff like that. And I remember it was one little kid that was booing me. I was just like, "Hey kid, you need to sit there. You need to shut your mouth, because after I'm done with your mama, she's not gonna be the only person that's calling me daddy." You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. Like I do miss being a heel in wrestling, but and I love being a face, because being a face is being, I'm positive in real life
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. But if the time ever came for an evil Benjamin Banks to resurface, oh man, count your days, everybody, count your days.
And I'm not.
Which I love because it's like you're saying that I'm a positive guy, but it's almost like a comedic in some comedic movies where it's like, you know, I turn my life for the Lord, but don't let it fool you. You can still
Yeah,
catch his hands if
yeah,
you cross his line. Like don't I wasn't a Holy Ghost person or whatever. I was running these streets or doing something. Or
Yeah.
say the quote, try Jesus, don't try me.
Yeah, don't try me. Uh-huh. Or call an ambulance. Not for me, but for the person I'm about to shoot. Yeah, there you go.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm so jealous. I'm sitting in the same boat, 35. You know, been watching wrestling since I was shitting in my pants. The guy who made me want to be a wrestler was Ric Flair.
Uh-huh.
I everything about Ric Flair was amazing. I think that's where I gained a love for like the heel character. On my bucket list, if I ever catch him at a con, I'm gonna try and move heaven and earth just to get one chop from him. That is my bucket list.
I bet you he'd do it too.
Exactly.
I bet you he'd for the right price, but he'll
Yep.
do it. For the right.
How's a kidney and 2 children? I'm curious. What do they go for now?
So, kind of to go back to the wrestling thing, if you don't mind, the one question I have is, okay, so um, the Pinky Society, you guys have won the belts twice already, right?
Yes.
So my question is that we know you're gonna win the belts again. You're gonna make it three times the charm. My question is who do you foresee? Who do you foresee is going to be the obstacle once you guys win that belt? Because when we did watch the VCW in Alexandria with the match between the Delinquents and forgive me for probably saying the name wrong, Batatier,
The Bateri.
the Baterias. I'm not gonna lie, the Baterians, I thought was gonna win that match.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's two guys. I mean, the face paint and everything. It was like It was like go time with them. So I was kind of shocked, mainly because the way the Delinquents looked. Because you got one dude that looked like he's that guy from American Idol mixed with Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons. Then you got the other dude that's just he's that which is I wrote the name Justin Fuller and Mikey
Banker.
Baker. Like Mikey looked like he looks like one of those guys that are just too like he's big, but he's trying to chill the cool crowd. Like he doesn't really do crime, but he's just doing it with everybody else. Like I feel that's what those guys are, and
Yeah.
I mean to give them credit, they are a good team. They're living up to the Delinquents. But my question for you again, my question is when you guys win that belt, who do you foresee is going to come and challenge you guys? You mentioned Big AC too, so I don't know if
Yeah.
there'll be some type of tag team with Desmond King. Because I can be
So
frank, he punch you in your balls. I mean they're
that is
low
true.
blow.
That is true. I'll say that, because me and Griff, we have faced the Bateri before, and we have defeated them.
Mm-hmm.
But they are a formidable team. You know what I'm saying? I feel like every tag team that has been thrown our way when we were the tag team champions, we were fighting champions. We
Mm-hmm.
defended our belt every time. Like there's never beat this team and then you come after us. It's just like we was fighting tag team after tag team after tag team after tag team.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, with VCW with Jerry Stephanesis, Jerry, like he was throwing guys our way. And, with the Delinquents, unfortunately we lost the belts because Griff, he wasn't medically clear to compete, and I feel like if Griff was there that night, we never would have lost the tag titles. But then when Griff does show up and we have the match against them, we get cheated, and
Mm-hmm.
so to go back to your question, eh, the only thing that I can say is that whoever steps into the ring with us, I feel like everybody is a challenge. I don't think that not one person that we ever faced was just a tag team of the week like the
Mm-hmm.
Smallville episodes. It's
Mm.
just
There's another
like,
week.
yeah, like these were guys that it's just like, there's a possibility that they're gonna beat us. It's just, and like that's how it is with wrestling. It's just like you go out there, you never know if you're gonna get cheated. You never know if somebody's gonna have somebody hop the guardrail and
Yeah.
come into the ring and do something. Like you just don't know. You just don't know. And I think that me and Griff, we do a really good job at protecting each other, making sure that we always have each other's back, and that's what makes us a good tag team. It's always
Mm-hmm.
about looking out for your brother and making sure that you have each other's back. And I said it a little while ago. I was a fan watching Griff, and now we're a tag team. So he's somebody I've been watching and watching their back since 2013. So yeah.
Mhm. So with that being said, too, do you let's just say since you mentioned that there was injury before,
Uh-huh.
Lord forbid you find yourself in that situation, would you opt in to either not be in a position of handicap, but postpone it possibly, or will you think VCW would tell you guys to give up the championships?
Well, see, it's not really it's not VCW, it's Jerry Stephanesis because he's the shot caller at
Mm-hmm.
VCW. You know what I'm saying? Like me and Jerry, we have history together. Before he was the owner, um, we me and him, he used to manage me,
Uh-huh.
and me and him, like we have a history together. He hates us, he Jerry's one of the reasons why I was as big as I was. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
this is somebody he didn't have faith in me as, somebody that needed to lose weight. All he saw me as was I was a big guy. I was the higher muscle. I was the guy that needed to make sure that Brandon Scott, when he was champion at the time, never lost his belt and whatnot. And
Right.
Jerry, he used to always do everything in his power to, cheat in our matches, and
Mm-hmm.
then, eventually I was just like, enough is enough. I didn't like the way he was talking to me and whatnot. He slapped me and I retaliated. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what did you say, Rico? Where it's just like, try Jesus, not me. It was
Yeah.
one of those things, and like Jerry has just had it out for me and now Griff because of me since we became a tag team. And it's just one of those things where it's just like you just never know. Like when like if it was up to me,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like the match would have been postponed and then me and Griff, we would have ended up, facing the delinquents when he was medically cleared. But
Mm-hmm.
when Jerry pretty much said that, hey, it's just like the titles are on the line tonight. You have to go out there. I was ready to go out there and I was ready to defend the tag team titles by myself. It was going to be a handicap match, but you know, uh luckily, Alex Devine, he came out there. He's been somebody that has been, a supporter of the Golden Pinky Society for, a while. He said when he came out to the ring that, me and Griff are people that he's looked up to since he's been in VCW, and he was like, Banks, I'm not gonna let you go out there by yourself, and if for one night only, I would like to be a member of the Golden Pinky Society, and
Mm-hmm.
you know it was going good, everything was fine, and Desmond King came out there and he attacked Alex, and you know that's the reason why I lost the titles. It was because
Mm-hmm.
of Desmond King, and Desmond is somebody that has really, showed his true colors. Like, he was somebody that was a friend to me and Griff, and then like
Right.
for him to low blow me in Alexandria, and for him to, become who he is today, like it really upsets me and Griff because we were supposed to be boys. Like there
Yeah.
was a time where like I had got attacked, and Griff, he would have had to compete by himself, and Desmond, he was just like, nah, I'm not gonna let that happen. And for him to do what he did, it's very messed up. It is it's something that we don't take kindly to. He's the reason why me and Griff aren't the tag team champions anymore. And
Mhm.
on July 26th at the Liberty Lottery, with Paul London, not only are we going to make him pay what he owes, but we're going to make Big AC and we're going to make Cassius Carter pay what they owe as well, because that's what the Golden Picket Society is all about.
That's as since you mentioned the other guy, you said Cassius. I couldn't find his name. Forgive me. You said his name was what again?
Cassius Carter. And I said July 26th. I meant July 27th. I'm sorry about
Okay.
that.
So for the record, I don't like his name. I don't like his shirt, and I don't like his haircut.
I mean, he tried giving us fake money in the battle royal. I'm just like, what is this? Like Michael Blackson said in Next Friday. I can't get jiggy with this. I took
Yeah.
I took that money, I threw it out the ring, and then
Was
we
he the guy
started
in the Hawaiian
attacking him.
shirt?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, the
okay.
shiny dude. Forgive me, but I wanted one of y'all to slap the crap out of. Like I wanted him over the ropes when he and Big AC Desmond King. I'm like, please, somebody throw that guy out. Just throw him out. He was one of the characters of many ones that came out there that fought where I'm like, yeah, you need to get off the rope. Like, I'm done with you.
Like, what'd you call the one guy with the red streak in his hair? Harley Quinn?
Oh, Harley Quinn. Yeah, him. It was a couple of other ones that were out there. Like, I was just like, dude, no, go. I mean, y'all were giving them chances. I get it. You were giving everybody chances in that ring, but there were some of them where I wish as soon as they came into the ring, you just toss them out. Like, that's it. Like,
Who was the dude in the overalls? The really pasty one.
Overalls.
I might be mixing it up in my head. There's one guy. He had kind of like medium short hair, big jack dude. He was kind of like really pasty. He was like
he had like a mustache because he came out with like some type of professor or somebody.
Oh yeah, you talk about the tag. Yeah. Now me and Griff, we eliminated those guys.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not the guy. This is the one he was fighting. I'm gonna call him Harley Quinn because I can't remember his name. He was fighting Harley Quinn most of the match.
Ooh, I don't remember who that was because there were so many guys out there.
It was a lot of dudes.
One thing I'll say is it's just with Big AC and with Cassius, it's just like with me and Griff. It's one of those things where it's just like when you're at a team with somebody, you make sure that you have that person's back. So it's right. One of those things. If I saw that somebody was trying to eliminate Griff, I was over there to save him. If somebody was trying to eliminate me, Griff was over there to save him. So it's the same thing with those guys where it's just like there were times where we tried to eliminate them, and then here comes Big AC. There's times we tried to eliminate Big AC. Here comes Cassius. So it's just one of those things, man.
Which kind of surprised me because I thought, I guess I'm looking at it as from just wrestling history. Most of the time, everybody tries to get the big guy out first, at least that, or at least try to team up on him. But to give Big AC his credit, he was just knocking a couple of you guys around. And I'm like, God, hey, this dude.
Yeah.
Like, I think he almost got thrown out twice, and it was just like, nope, he just keeps coming back. And then again, his buddy in the tight shirt would come, and I'm like, God, just let somebody throw this guy out. I don't like his shirt. I don't like his attitude. Just something about that guy. He could be a good guy. He could be a God-fearing guy. For some reason, I didn't like him. I like,
yeah.
So and like him, his fake money.
What was that?
I like him. I like his fake money. Everything about him. I don't know.
Here's a quick question for you. So hypothetically speaking, if you want to answer this, you can. You don't have to. Had it been down to you and Griff, what do you think would have happened?
Ooh. If it would have came down to me and Griff, we both respect each other, and I would have been the better man, and I would have eliminated him. Like that's what would have happened. It's so funny. Before me and Griff became a tag team, before we became the Golden Pinky Society, I remember me and him, we had went to the Funny Bone and we had to promote the Liberty Lottery. And for the Liberty Lottery, I had won like a battle royal where I got the last spot to come out into the Liberty Lottery. And I remember when we were on stage promoting it, I told Griff, I said, Griff, like you're out here talking about you're going to win the lottery and whatnot. But I said, by the time I come out to the ring, you're probably going to be going to the back. This was before we became the Golden Pinky Society. And at that Liberty Lottery, when I was coming out to the ring, he literally was going to the back. And I was just like, see, I told you. But what was funny was at the Liberty Lottery last year, when I had came out early in the match and then I had got eliminated, and when I was walking to the back, he was coming out to the ring. So it's one of those things where it's like a full circle moment where it's just like, see, now the shoe's on the other foot. So
did he shoot you a look or say anything to you, like when he was going towards the ring? Like
no, he didn't. But I remembered, and I told him, I was just like, yeah, it happened to me now. So yeah, it's just one of those things that happens, and like that's the beautiful thing about wrestling.
Another question I have is with the upcoming event on July 27th. If let's just say in the universe, you and Paul can't get it done against Desmond King and Big AC, would we see a one-on-one match with Desmond King and you going against each other?
I would love to get my hands on Desmond King. It's like I said, he's the reason
why he's running away from you. You feel he's running away from you?
That's what I think.
Just say, hey, he's chicken on this podcast. He just said he's chicken.
I
Desmond King, you're a
already
chicken.
called him Quaker Oats. You know what I'm saying? At the last VCW event, it was supposed to be me and Diamond Victor Griff against Big AC and Desmond, but Desmond was just like, you know what? I'm not wrestling tonight. It's going to be Big AC and Cassius, and this is
Yankee
what
Doodle Dandy did him.
this is what we're doing, Desmond. This is what we're doing. We're just constantly ducking because that's what I'm saying. It's just like you cost us the tag titles, you low blowed me. It's just like something has to give, my guy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah, I would love to have a one-on-one match with Desmond. I would love to get my hands around his neck and just throw him around the ring like he was a kid in the classroom that would not shut his mouth, and I was the teacher, and I was ready to shut him up.
I feel if you guys ever did a one-on-one, or even if you guys, I believe you're gonna be successful July 27th.
Thank you.
He needs to burn that outfit he got. The old Yankee Doodle Dandy outfit he got.
Yeah.
He needs to burn that if he loses to you. Either on the, two on two, or even if he's mad enough, I'm calling him out right now. If he goes against you, he needs to burn it when he loses.
Yeah.
Listen, if you remember last time we started calling people out, microphones got muted. I'm just saying, no one will ever know what I said about Steven Seagal.
Oh no! Oh no!
Hey, I'm just saying, Desmond King, you offended his man. You repeatedly offended his man multiple times. I think his time has come. I think he got that in uniform.
Yep.
Sort of acting, Yankee Doodle Dandy. He needs to get that uniform burned. That's what it is. He's acting high and mighty. He's been hanging around, not Big AC, but the other guy. That's where he gets his arrogance from. That tight ass shirt. That's what happened. He needs to burn it.
Say that tight ass shirt.
Tight ass shirt. He needs to burn that uniform and that tight ass shirt, and then that guy needs to just change the haircut. I don't know what about it. He doesn't have enough hair up there. Come on, you guys know that too. He's hanging on to the last bit of hip hop he has. Look, I shaved my beard. He can change his hair. I'm just.
Damn, Rico, did you take some coffee today? Like, what's up? A little irritable.
I don't know what my wife put in this, but I'm probably gonna be at midnight just like this on Fortnite. I'm like, yeah.
So, Benjamin, I got a question for you. As a professional wrestler, I'm assuming you're still a fan of like watching other promotions and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So here's a question for you: what kind of wrestling do you nope out on? So, let me give you an example. So for me, one of my guilty pleasures is deathmatch wrestling. I don't know what got me into it, but that's like one of the things where like something about it. There's an art form to it in a sense. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that one because just a bunch of dudes battering the shit out of each other with furniture, but something about them just kind of, I love it. I don't know if it's the drama or something, but like one thing that I don't like is when they do like super gimmicky matches, like the gobbledygook or whatever, but they did like I think it was like with the it was a Thanksgiving show WWF did back in the 90s, and it just felt
with the turkey.
Yes,
it was Survivor Series.
That was it. It was that Survivor Series,
and that was the Gooker, I believe.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's like that to me. That was just garbage. But then I'll sit there and watch deathmatch wrestling all day because, like, one of my favorite deathmatch wrestlers is Schlack. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy.
No,
he is like the human barbarian. That dude is nuts. But if you ever get a chance to see some of his stuff, it is crazy what those guys will do. But like, yeah, what would be some of your like the coolest type of matches you like, and then just those bottom tier, like I would never like want to participate or watch one of these matches.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. I've always been a fan, and it's crazy because you were talking about like the Thanksgiving stuff with Survivor Series. I've always loved Survivor Series styles matches. I've always loved matches, and like I want to say I've only competed in a few of them where it's been a Survivor Series style match where it's just like it's a team. You make a big team, and everybody goes at it and whatnot. One thing, this was at Next Evolution Wrestling, where I can't remember the name of the show that they would do, but every December they had this show there where it was teams and they were competing in a tournament. And how the tournament worked was it was a tag team tournament, and pretty much you got partnered with somebody on the roster. So
Oh.
there was like, so like me and Griff would be a tag team. Like I could get partnered up with you, Nico, and then it would be me and you. And like if you and Rico, like you said, you and Rico are a tag team.
Mm.
It could be me and you versus Griff and Rico. You know
Oh
what I'm
wow.
saying? So
Okay.
it could be something like that. So
Mm.
like I thought that that was a really cool concept, and I think that that's something that I would like to see like more promotions do,
Mm.
because
Mm.
it was different and unique, and you know, and just working with somebody else, because like sometimes you can work with somebody and you may not have any chemistry with the person. Like
Mm.
Mhm.
the first year I had ever did it, I had teamed up with the Lost Boy Jay Kirby. And what was cool about that was me and him, we actually trained together at SPW. So me and him already had good chemistry together, and we were able to, you know, move on. And I remember like, so it's like you enter this tournament, whoever the team is that wins, they move on to a battle royal at the end of the night. And then it's just like it's only one person can win the battle royal, of course,
Mm.
but
Mhm.
still, it was just one of those things. But now like matches that like I think are cringe or like that I would never compete in. Uh, if like matches, there's not really a lot of stuff that like I really find cringe. I mean, like I've seen some deathmatch stuff,
Mm.
but it's never to the point where I'm just like, you know, this is cringe. I don't like it, but it's probably because like I haven't digested enough of it, and I know that there are some really, really like crazy death
Oh
matches
yeah.
out there.
Mhm.
You know, I'll say it. It was funny. I was at a Necro Butcher and New Jack death match
Oh
one time.
shit.
This was I can't remember the promotion. It was in New Jersey, and it was during WrestleMania weekend. It was which WrestleMania was it? It was the one where The Rock faced John Cena. It was at WrestleMania 28. Yeah, 28 or
That
29.
sounds vaguely
29.
familiar. Yeah.
It was 29 because they faced each other at 28, and then 29 was when they were in New Jersey, and then WrestleMania 30 was in New Orleans. So yeah. Um but yeah, that was a good death match. But like if there was a match that I wouldn't be in, I guess probably a bra and panties match, I guess. That's the only thing I can really think of for real.
Oh, see, it's funny you say that because that is exclusively the only matches that Rico will do.
Oh, for real? Was
Oh, for
bra and
real.
panties? Oh wow. Yeah.
No.
I
I'm gonna do
think
the
that's
Consuelo from Family Guy. No. No, you buy. No. The Necro Butcher, was he the one that went against
He
Samoa
was the
Joe?
one that we were talked about with the Samoa Joe one. Yeah.
yeah, yes.
Oh.
So
Yeah, 'cause
to
that was where Joe was gonna kill you came from.
Yep.
Was good. Yeah, because
So
Joe
so to
had
kind of introduce them and kind of like ease them into deathmatch wrestling,
Yeah,
I sent them that video of Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher.
yeah,
yeah.
that was
My
crazy.
Oh fuck,
yeah. My
that's
critique
an
was
insane
that
match.
Necro Butcher didn't match his outfit. Like, he didn't match his name. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, guys gonna look decrepit, maybe like an off-brand of Undertaker. You look like some dude that was in the country you would pass by off a
Yeah.
farm or in a store. It was like, you're the Necro Butcher. Like, is this some hidden power you have? Like, I don't know what's
Okay.
going on.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, right? So I remember. So have you guys ever watched like ECW when they were Eastern Championship Wrestling? Did
I've
you ever
seen
watch?
I've seen a
Uh,
couple matches, but
yeah.
like
So
not a lot.
so I remember when they first put ECW on the WWE network. Me and my friends, we watched it, and ECW, like Eastern Championship Wrestling, it was pretty much like a indie
Mm.
wrestling show. Like that's pretty
Mm.
much what it was. And I remember we were watching it, and like the main event was the Sandman versus somebody. And when we were watching it, the Sandman came out like in a surf suit. He had a
Oh yes,
surfboard,
sir. I remember
Mhm.
that.
and we were like, "Whoa!" It's just like, hold on. You
Mhm.
telling us that the guy that was coming to the ring with beer cans and
Mm-hmm.
a kendo stick and Enter
Mhm.
the Sandman by Metallica, that he was a surfer? Like so
Mhm.
so so Rico, I totally understand where you're coming from. And it made sense like why he was the Sandman. It made sense, but it's like he was just this happy-go-lucky guy. He came to the ring with a chick. He's slapping fives and all this stuff, and to see what he became, and it's just like when you see the Sandman now, you're just like, oh, like that's just his name. He's the Sandman. But yeah, it's crazy. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It's just like if somebody's name was the Milkman, and they actually weren't a milkman. It's just like, well, then why are they the milkman for? like, why is that their name?
I find it funny. Like, I listen to the Jim Cornette Experience quite a
Yeah.
bit, and like every time Sandman comes up, he's like, that guy is 90% intro. That is it. Can't wrestle worth shit, but man, does he know how to make a crowd pop. And it's crazy. Like, that's one of the things I love about professional wrestling is the personalities that come out of it. Because like, you can name actors all day, but you don't get the same you don't get the same vibe as you do off like a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Hulk Hogan, you can pretty much guarantee that is exactly what that man is like in real life, aside from a few other things. But like, that's him. And like Ric Flair, with all the shit that's going on with him in the news lately, I'm like, yeah, no, that sounds like Nate. Like, that is him. Like, that's what I love about professional wrestling.
Yeah, and to Ric Flair's credit, he surprised me when he was in a Bad Bunny video. I was talking about wrestling. You haven't seen that?
No,
I've seen the video, but I don't remember the song. But I know because Bad Bunny, he's a huge wrestling fan. I mean, and he's a wrestler too. But yeah, Ric Flair. I mean, being in the Bad Bunny video, then of course the I was about to say 3-6 Mafia, but what is the name of that group? I'm mad I can't remember the group name right now. Well, Quavo,
The Migos.
Offset, Migos. There we go. Yeah, the Ric Flair drip. He did that too. So
I think that's because it's more now with wrestling. Now it's become more mainstream than to give Vince McMahon his credit because he's been running the thing since the '80s.
Yeah.
That's another reason why
he was running it.
He was running it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why it's been more of a staple for anybody else. Because again, wrestling for us, I mean, I've been watching it since the '80s. Fell off of it, and then just recently started coming back. But I mean, like Undertaker, like to give his credit to his podcast, like I have more appreciation for Undertaker right now, for what his journey was and everything else that he's done.
Yeah.
He's been in the game a lot. I mean, that's the one thing I think I like about wrestling now, where I like the backstories of the wrestlers, not only just the characters, everything else. Like, we talked about Edge. I think what was it last podcast that I watched his interview for, and I'm like, dude, I remember Edge when he was young to the way he looks right now, like old man Logan. Like, you can tell he's been through some things, and it's great to see what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
trying to come back, in a way, but being careful because he's. I think he has that realization now. Well, he had the realization when he had to retire, when he got the phone call. It's like, we're not gonna live forever, and I think you mentioned it too before. You said you were 35. I mean, the truth of the matter is you guys put your bodies through punishments similar to how any other sports. Like when Ray Lewis retired from football, I think he was 36.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that dude looks great. Why is he retiring? But then you put in those football miles of him hitting those bodies at the speed and intensity. Yeah, it's one of those things where you can really see it from the wrestlers. But I mean, again, with the podcast and what we learn now is just, again, more appreciation, everything.
Yeah, I do want to thank you because that hit that you and Big AC took probably shaved a couple years off.
Yeah, that was
like how bad did that hurt? Because that looked like it was
painful.
It looked painful.
It was painful, man. And like I said, like Big AC is a big guy, so it's one of those things. It's like we're both big guys, you know.
Yeah, you both are pretty agile for being big guys too. Like, you're some big guys who can move.
Yeah, we big guys in the streets and freaks in the sheets. You know what I'm saying? So like that's how it gets down. But yeah, it's just it's one of those things, man. It's just especially like I was saying about my weight loss journey and losing the weight and everything, and it's just like just because I got smaller, it doesn't mean that I still don't hit hard. So yeah.
Well, yeah, you got that muscle memory. You know how to hit somebody when you're 350. You're definitely gonna know how to hit them when you're down to 250.
Exactly.
So, one question, another question I have for you is, since we're talking about injuries, since you've been doing this for so long, how do you explain? I guess I'm pretty sure your family supports you. You didn't mention if you had a significant other.
Yeah.
Um, but from your parents to other family members, if you have a significant other, how do you explain to them when they see you put your body through that? I mean, in a way, I'm not saying it's intentional punishment. You and Big AC again, you guys collided. Like, are there times where somebody's like, "Hey, I want you to stop this. Like, you're gonna hurt yourself," or or you come home, you kind of bruised up, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
No, I never had anybody, ask me that or, tell me like, you need to hang it up or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a really good support system, and my mom, like, she's one of my biggest supporters, and she was like when I first got into wrestling, she bought me my first pair of boots, and
Oh wow.
when I first started, I was wearing wrestling shoes, and she was like, I want to help you in your wrestling career, and she bought me boots. So, I was very appreciative of that. And um at the last VCW show that just happened, because it was on May 4th, it was her first time actually just, sitting at my table where me and
Mm-hmm.
Griff merch at. And when she was sitting there, like, she was just talking with all the fans that were coming to the table and whatnot, and she was like, "Oh, so this is what it feels like to be Benjamin Banks," and like they were calling her Mama Banks and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Like my mom might, drive me and Griff to the ring in a minivan or something like that. Like
Oh, that would be amazing.
that's what all the cool kids are doing nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I just I had a few injuries in wrestling, and I just had a good support system, and family just check in on me and make sure that I was okay, and just and make sure that, like, I didn't push myself to the point where um I probably couldn't return to wrestling.
Mhm.
'Cause it's just like it's all a risk once you get through that rope, and it's like you just never know what may happen. And like when you guys were at the show in Alexandria, unfortunately, Dirty Money,
Mhm.
he suffered an injury where he tore both his quads, and me being the guy that I am, I made a GoFundMe for him, and it's called help Dirty Money bounce back. And the goal is $3,000, and right now we're at 2,600. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's donated to that, because Dirty Money, he's a good guy. He's he's good in the ring. I've had the opportunity to wrestle him multiple times, and in different companies and whatnot. And yeah, like, I just hope nothing but the best for him, in his recovery. And when he's ready to step back in the ring, he'll be ready to step back in the ring. But right now it's all about recovery,
Mhm.
getting back to where you want to be at. And then if you do want to step back into the ring, you come back into the ring. If you don't, if you want to take time off, that's okay. Like that, at the end of the day, like, what it means to be a wrestler is that it's okay if you get hurt and you want to take time off, especially in the indies. It's different
Mhm.
when you're in the big league,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like you want to get that money, you know what I'm saying? But on the indies, it's just like you want to make sure that you take care of yourself, because you never know when that next match might be your last.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well I look at like going back to segueing off that to like deathmatch wrestling. Look at some of the guys who came from CZW, like
Yeah.
CM Punk. Some of the matches I've seen that man go through, I am surprised he's able to walk today.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's crazy what some of the guys will put themselves through for the entertainment of their fans.
Yeah.
Like,
But
I
you
mean, look.
remember them, though.
oh
You
yeah,
remember them
oh
because of
yeah,
that
like
stuff.
I'll always remember John Moxley.
Yeah, you remember. I mean, like, even like they're still doing stuff now. Like some of
Mm-hmm.
them are, but not as crazy as they used to. But yeah, like, it's just like you remember that stuff, like the stuff with Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher,
Mm-hmm.
and where Joe's gonna kill you, and like that's where the chant came from. And it's just like people literally thought that Joe killed Necro Butcher. So
When he cracked his head off the ground and like it looked
Yeah.
like he might have killed him. Like I'm
yeah,
surprised he
so
got back up and kept going.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things, man.
No, I think with that is true. I mean, Mick Foley is the same thing.
Mm.
Like going through his body. I think only the only thing I guess I look at now it's when you're kids, and I would say even as a young in your 20s, I think what appeals to that stuff is the intensity and the extreme that it goes to. But as you grow older, it's like after a while, sometimes I question it, like, do we really need to see this that much? Do you really
Mm.
need to put yourself to that point? But I mean, again, to your point, Benjamin, it's one of those things where this is what you guys sign up for. This is what you want to do. This is something for the fans. And again, going to the ACW, I mean, a VCW match. I mean, again, it was a great experience because there's a lot
Yeah.
of hits. But man, I'm not gonna lie. Like the I forgot what match that was where the one guy hit the post
It was the
in
first
front of us.
match. It
It was
was it,
Alex Divine and
yes. When Alex Devine hit that pole, it looked like he got knocked
yeah,
sideways.
Alex Divine and Saul, I
Yep.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was
Like I
gonna
don't
be
know.
down because he hit. It looked like he hit that thing
It
hard.
looked and sounded like he hit it hard, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm like all like this cringing. My son's like this. Like, I want to go home. Like what?
Yeah, I got all the
Oh
respect for you
man.
guys because some of the shit you guys put yourself through is like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things, man, where it's like I said, you are taking the risk every time you go through those ropes, and it's one of those things. It's just you just love it, you know.
Mhm.
It's just like you just keep on going until you can't go anymore, and like thankfully, like I'm still able to go out there and perform and
Mhm.
have good matches and whatnot. But again, it's just like you just never know, man.
Yeah, it's almost like a ticking time bomb. It's like at some point it's gonna click, and like that's I find that like personally super scary to think about. Like with Dirty Money, it's just like it did not look like there was anything that would have caused that. It just looked like he hit just the wrong step when he was trying to go over that when he was getting ready to go over that rope, and he was just down.
Yeah. Yes, and see, like me and Griff, like we had already left before, like before we had saw that. So it's just like we found out about it on our way home. That
Oh
it's just like
wow.
that it had happened. Yeah, man. It was insane. It was insane when we heard about it. So I'm just happy that he's okay and he's
Yes.
recovering. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad because that we were wondering about that too because I was like trying to find maybe like a social media post or something about it, and then I think it was like maybe a day or two later the VCW Facebook put out what happened, and I was like, well, I'm glad he's like in recovery, but oh damn, like that is scary.
Yeah. Hmm.
So dumb question. What's it like bouncing off those ropes? Because it looks like it'd be painful yet fun at the same time.
I mean, like I'll say, like when I first started in the business, it was definitely painful, but it's just like after a while, it's like your body adjusts to it, just like anything else. I mean, like just like any athlete, like whether it's playing, basketball, baseball, boxing, it's just like the more that you do something, like the more your body adjusts to it. But it's just like there. I remember there was one time, I had bounced off the rope. And like sometimes ropes can be loose if they're not
Mm-hmm.
tightened fully.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I thought that I was going to go through the rope. Because I was going for the money shuffle, and I was going to do the splash, and I had hit the rope. And when I had hit the rope, it just felt weird, and I just stopped like mid splash, and I was just like, bro, I was just like, what is going on with these ropes? And then I went and jumped over the guy and hit the other rope, and I hit the splash. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was definitely crazy though.
Okay. Here's an interesting one. Now, since you speak about that, what is the worst move you've ever like been hit with? Like, what's the one thing where you're like, oh, I do not want to do that ever again?
Uh, the worst move I've ever been hit with. All right, so like there have not really been like big moves that I've been hit with where
Mm,
it's like, I didn't want to take it again, but there have definitely been some guys that hit super hard, and when they hit hard, like it's like of course like I take it but it is very painful. Like
Mm.
when they hit, like, but I love it because it's just I love being hit hard. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because it's like when if you're gonna hit me hard, I want you to hit me with everything that you got. And like some of the guys like Sterling Williams, Damian Wayne, Safi, like Sean Denny, and Sterling Williams when it comes to their kicks, like those were probably like the hardest kicks that I had ever received in my wrestling career. And then Asafi and Damian Wayne, those probably had to be the hardest chops that I had ever received. Like they were brutal, 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 brutal. It's just like those are the types of chops where it's just like when those guys hit it, it's just like it lights up the entire building when they hit those chops.
Mhm.
It's one of those ones where you can hear from like the nosebleeds.
Yes,
Mhm.
Ooh.
yes, yes.
All right.
I just got one follow up question. As you continue your wrestling career, winning many, and keeping many championships, do you see yourself possibly transitioning over to a manager position, for as you want to manage any young wrestlers that are coming in there? Because
Uh,
you mentioned you saw Grift and now you're tag teaming him, so I would understand if there's some type of a little bit of mentorship in a sense with you guys, possibly,
uh,
but.
I mean, like honestly, it's like I would love to manage, but it's just like if I'm going to manage somebody, it's like because I'm still young. Like I
Yeah.
would want to be like in my 50s or something. Like I want to
Mhm.
be like an old man, like managing somebody, just like like how Teddy Long was managing Mark
Yeah.
Henry and Rodney Mack, or Ric Flair with Triple H and Batista. Now, even though he was still
Mhm.
wrestling, but I feel like if I was going to be a manager, it would have to be at a point where it's just like, hey, like I can't do as many bumps as I used to be able to do,
Mhm.
and it's just I just want to talk crap. I would definitely want to be a heel manager in
Okay.
Mhm.
this point of time. Like if I was going to be a manager, because it's like you don't have any fun if you're a face manager. You just kind of just out there and
Mhm.
just cheering and stuff like that. Whereas if you're a heel manager, it's just like you're getting in with the people in the crowd, and
Mhm.
you're helping your the guy that you're managing win the match by, like, I mean, kind of similar to what Jerry was doing to me, unfortunately. But yeah, only like if I was a bad Benjamin Banks, then I
Mhm.
would do that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't want to keep you on too much longer if you got something to do, because we did say say about an hour to two, and we're about like 11 minutes over. I don't know if you want to keep going, or we'll leave it up to you, man.
If you guys have any more questions, like I'm cool with it. But yeah, like, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to ask?
That's a good question. Let's talk to the brains here. What do we got, Lou Albano?
I think the wrestling. Hmm, I don't got too many. I think you answered all my wrestling questions, which again I appreciate on that part.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess if you can, I guess the one wrestling question would be is how have you interviewed? Well, let me go back. I'm sorry. So one thing I noticing about the cons between Awesome Con and Galaxy Con in Richmond, Galaxy Con had a buttload of wrestlers, both female and male. What has been your experiencing with these guys? If you ever had a chance to talk to, like I saw Lex Luger was there, Ric Flair, there were some of the Matt Hardy. Have you had those experiences in interviewing them, or has been the reception if they showed up to a VCW or even one of your past matches? Um,
Well, I'll say it like this: when it comes to wrestlers at cons, a lot of times at cons, wrestlers, like, they have long lines of people that want to
mhm,
meet them and whatnot. So it's very hard for me to like try and interview a wrestler that's at a con. Voice actors, some of them, like of course, like, like the really popular ones, and I'm not even going to be able to interview. It's just like some of the wrestlers, but like some of the voice actors, like Justin, like he's a very popular one, but it was just like it was super late at night, and like there was literally nobody at his table. I'll say for a lot of wrestlers, like they usually don't stay very long. Like, cause Sting,
right.
he was at GalaxyCon, and I want to say like he was not there all day. Some
Mhm,
people, it's like they're only there for a certain amount of time, It's just like, and you have to, get that time window with them. And it's like, it's never, you should never like you wait in line to like just talk to somebody. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because at like
Right.
these things, like people are trying to, get things signed, they're trying to buy stuff, and a lot of people only have like, small windows for real.
Mm.
Mhm.
Like I know when I met Justin at MegaCon, I stood in line for like 2 hours, and then like they told us that he's about to go do a Q&A, and I was just like, bro, I could have been standing here for 2 hours. Like I gotta meet this guy. So with wrestlers, what's easier for me is if we're on the same shows together, and then it's like,
Mm.
I can talk with somebody, or ask them questions and whatnot, and like that's pretty much like how I like to keep it with other wrestlers, and I feel like more with wrestlers, it's more of we're more like colleagues. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mhm.
So it's like, I really don't interview a lot of wrestlers because it's I kind of feel like, like we're like this, if that makes any
Right.
sense. So, but like, like my field, yeah, I tried interviewing wrestlers when we first started our podcast and whatnot, and those interviews were fun, and like I enjoyed interviewing the people that we interviewed. But I feel like when you're doing this stuff, you have to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Mhm.
And when we first started, we kind of was just interviewing anybody for real. But once we found our footing and like we started like getting voice actor guests, and like people were reaching out to us to come on and be interviewed, like we found our footing. And I'm a nerd, I'm a wrestler, so it's like the world's
Mhm.
mixed, and the rest is history.
Okay. All right. Is that all you got, Rico?
I mean,
Yeah.
hold on, give me my signal, Benjamin. Give me the closing out words. I got one more question, but I don't want to
All right.
Yeah, go
keep
ahead.
going.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, so with wrestling too, on that part, one thing I saw from in the VCW event was um, the female wrestlers on that part. Definitely different than what you see on TV. Because some of again, same thing. Some of the women wrestlers were when they were fighting. Again, they looked like they were hitting each other a lot. Do you see yourself in the future possibly doing crossover events? Maybe again, you mentioned the mixed tag team where one person was not on your, was your regular tag team partner, and they gave you somebody else. Do you see yourself possibly teaming up with a women wrestler to do a tag team match, possibly?
I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, I've never actually done that before. I've never teamed up with a woman before, but I would definitely like be down to do something like that if it called for it. But with the way that me and Griff are, and the
Mm,
Golden Pinky Society, I would never see that happening unless, like I was like we were if we were at a company, I feel
mm,
like more than likely it would probably be like a 6-man tag match.
Mm.
And like the both of us would be teaming with somebody. But yeah, it's like, right now at this point in my career, I just see it being me and Griff until we ride off into the sunset together, to be honest with you.
Okay.
so I'm gonna put you on the spot. In that case,
Ooh.
who can you envision to tag team with you and Griff as
The Golden Pinky
some?
Society.
Yes, if
Uh
you had to let it, introduce a woman wrestler to come into the Golden Pinky Society, who would that be?
So I already have the answer to that, which is crazy because I told Griff about this a few months ago. But Hyena O'Hara, who has been wrestling at VCW, like
Right.
I think that she would be a perfect fit for the Golden Pinky Society. And the reason why I also say that too is that me and her, we trained together. Like we started
Mm,
at the same training school together, and I was telling her the last time that I had saw her that it's just so wild that me and her, like we started at the same school together, and there's not too many people from that school that are still wrestling today.
mm,
It's just some people, it's like they get into it and it's just like they just want to do it just to experience it. And some people, they get into it and then it's like they ride into the sunset. They have that
right.
one match and then they ride into the sunset. But yeah, like me and her, like we both been doing it for a long time. And it was funny because at the last VCW show, she was actually sitting next to us, at the merch table. So yeah, I think she'd be a perfect fit to be a part of the Golden Pinky Society.
Cool.
Okay, well then to end this little showdown, two things. One, number one video game you can recommend everybody to play. Number one anime you can recommend for people to watch. And how can people follow you?
Okay, so the number one video game that I would recommend people to play, I literally just told somebody about this earlier. I'm a huge single player person. And I was talking to one of my friends. She's a big multiplayer person. And I asked her, I said, do you play any single player games? And she said, no, not for real. Is there something that you would recommend? Which is crazy that this is the question. But I told her to play The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a really good game. I remember when it first came out on the PS3, and then The Last of Us 2 when it came out on the PS4. Like, I love that series. Then the TV show, highly recommend that game. For an anime, if I was going to recommend an anime for anybody to get into, there are so many out there, but I would recommend a short one as a gateway into anime, and that would be Death Note. Highly recommend Death Note. It's a good story. The ending is a little wonky, but you'll appreciate it. And you can find me, your hero Benjamin Banks, at King Benji _Banks on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can find my podcast, Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks, at Leveling Up Banks. It is the same on all social media accounts. And yeah, that's where you can find me at. Oh, then my tag team, the Golden Pinky Society, we are on Instagram at Golden Pinky Society.
All right, perfect. Well, Benjamin, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. If you ever want to come back on the show, or you and Griff want to come back, feel free. Everybody's always welcome on here. So,
awesome.
Pinkies up.
Yeah.
Pinkies up.
Hey, you know what's crazy, man? It's just like, I'm gonna take what you said, and we're gonna make it happen. This isn't the first time where it's just like only one half of the Golden Pinky Society has been on a podcast. So it's just like, right now, y'all are getting the first movie, then y'all will get the sequel, and in the sequel, that's when you will have both members of the Golden Pinky Society. But until then, thank you very much for having me up here. I enjoy talking to the both of you. I enjoy talking about nerd stuff. I enjoy talking about wrestling stuff. It's always a fun time when I can actually just come on and I can talk, because most of the time I'm always listening. So, thank you guys so much for, just giving me the floor and for being, kind and respectful and all that good stuff. Like, stuff like that, it goes a long way. And, I hope nothing but the success for, you and your team.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
All right. Sure. I think that's a podcast. All right. Everybody have a great night. Pinkies
Cut
up.
the check.
Come on, Rico. Pinkies up. There we go. All right. Take it easy, everybody.
Drink water. Appreciate it.